open up our budget retreat on Wednesday, April 17th, 2019. Make sure, thank you, making sure everybody's got their microphones on. Thank you. Okay. Calling the meeting to order. We have an adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Wendell moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Barry second. Any discussion? All in favor of the agenda, say aye. Aye. Motion moves. We have old business, which is the golf cart ordinance. We have, as a council, requested a committee to get together and discuss different options for golf carts on Beach Mountain. And the ordinance was presented in front of us. And is anybody presenting for that, or?
No. You have the chairman here, if she wants to say any word, Carol.
She gets 30 seconds, right?
There you go.
Long-winded 30 seconds. Madam Mayor and council members, we appreciated the opportunity to discuss and make a recommendation to you about how we feel golf carts can operate within the town limits, similar to how they have been operating from 2003 until last year, when they were restricted to a limited number of town roads. We did not take your appointment lightly and had a good participation from the members of the committee, with every member of the committee present for our final meeting last week. The committee voted 5 in favor and 2 against the recommendation for a new ordinance that you have in front of you. In our discussions, we felt that it was very necessary to recommend changes that were fair to everyone, meaning apply to all taxpayers equally, regardless of whether or not they were golfers, club members, or non-club members. We also felt that the ordinance needed to be enforceable by the town police, and we feel like we have eliminated vague, unenforceable language with this recommendation. As to the recommendation new ordinance, as to this recommended new ordinance, 1, this proposal separates regulation of golf carts, 72.03, from regulation of utility vehicles, 72.04, and defines each of the vehicles in 72.02. As the regulation of utility vehicles, 72.04, the ordinance adopted in 2003 and amended by council in 2018 applies virtually as is, with only minor changes such as adding Chestnut Way to the list of roads and removing any reference to golf carts. As for regulation of golf carts, 72.03, we have recommended that the ordinance apply to all town roads except Highway 184. We have recommended some additional safety rules and equipment for golf carts in addition to those already required. Brake lights must operate independently of taillights. Carts must be equipped with a mechanically operated horn. Carts must be equipped with reflectors affixed permanently to each side of the golf cart. Limit of 1 person per seat, maximum speed of 20 miles per hour, as is defined in the definition of a golf cart. Headlights and taillights must be illuminated at all times while on town roads. Carts may only operate 1/2 hour before sunrise and 1/2 hour after sunset, and only operated March through November. Already required are rear view mirrors, drivers have valid driver's license, golf carts stay to the right and yield right of way, headlights, brake lights. We are requiring proof of insurance coverage for operating a golf cart off any individual property. We are recommending limiting to only electric, battery-powered golf carts. Annual inspection by the Beach Mountain Police Department to ensure all safety, equipment, and insurance proof requirements are followed and may not be operated on the roads without display of a valid decal. Not included in the ordinance is the recommendation that signage be erected to the entrance of the town on main roads leaving Highway 184 that warn drivers about golf carts, bikes, and pedestrians on the roads. Not included in the ordinance is a recommendation that the inspection fees for golf carts be increased and it is our understanding that Tim Holloman is proposing a fee schedule to you for this consideration. Since our meeting last week and through discussions with members of council, some common suggestions by council members that seem to have merit include, rather than simply have a valid driver's license, perhaps there should be a minimum age above 16, such as 18 or 21. In addition to the one person per seat, perhaps restricting seating in rear-facing seats while on town roads. We are certain you may have some additional thoughts about our recommendations, and we are cognizant of and share the desire for safe operations of golf carts on the roads. We hope you will find our recommendations suitable, either as presented or as you see fit to amend. Thank you. Any questions?
What were the overriding objections of the two dissenters?
Safety.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Out of curiosity, this would be a guess on your part. How many golf carts currently are in private use that have been that should have been registered, say, last year? Approximately. I'm not going to hold you to it.
I'm going to say 75.
75 golf carts in private?
Maximum? I don't know. No.
There's
First?
about,
Help me out, guys.
the club inspected 50, around 50
That's
carts,
right.
but probably half of those would never operate on town roads because there are people who live on the golf course.
So roughly 25.
Right, and I think.
Roughly.
Sorry about
That's
that.
sort of what I heard from Ryan in the past.
Okay, well, there's 19.
That's the most that have ever been.
19 was inspected
Yeah.
this year.
And I asked Tim a further breakdown of that, and he told me that 6 of those are privately owned. So of the approximate 25, only, I'm going to be candid about this, only of the 25, only 6 people acted responsibly.
But that, I think a lot of that has to do with, most people were not, ignorance of the law being no excuse, most people were not aware of, until last year, of the requirement that the town also inspect carts that are driven on town roads. And that's part of what needs to be publicized if this change is adopted.
Yeah.
Well, 2011, 11 people had their golf cart inspected. In 2017, 7 had it inspected. So either they all lost memories.
Maybe.
Whether or
I
not
think,
the
yeah.
members
Yeah.
of
As we said, this has not been something that, for the most part, it's been people using it to go to the golf courses. It hasn't been,
Right.
you know, what we're discussing is opening up all town roads, and, yeah, I think you'll see that number increase. Some clarification just for me, as I read the second one. Help me understand your definition of a utility vehicle.
Right.
We're still talking about an electric vehicle, I'm assuming one with a bed used for utilities?
No,
what is-
the utility vehicle was the UTVs that you had, and they could be they could be gas.
In this ordinance that's written, which vehicles, I mean, are these commercial vehicles that we're looking to approve?
Or just UTVs.
We have not changed the UTV ordinance other than adding one road. We have taken the golf carts out of that ordinance. So it's basically a commercial vehicle.
Well, why did you put it in the ordinance, period? I mean, we already have an ordinance for UTVs. Why did you add it to this?
We didn't add it, we just said that we
Well,
took it
yeah,
out of there, except we did change one road.
Yeah, I
We-
know, but you've incorporated into the golf ordinance. Why didn't you just leave it out?
I think there are 2 ordinances in front of us,
Correct.
if I'm following what you're
Correct.
proposing. And the one being for private use of golf carts on all town roads, and the clear definition of what is a golf cart and how we're looking at it. Where I'm getting confused, and which is what exactly you consider, are these, for instance, the club buggies that they use to transport between the 2 campuses for the cleaning and maintenance?
If they are a golf cart, then they can stay a golf cart. The UTVs are
So,
Let's start at the beginning. There was an ordinance, it was 72.04.
04.
There was an ordinance, 72.04, which you changed last year, which regulated UTVs. All we did was leave that ordinance the same and pull out golf carts and created a separate subsection for golf carts. The utility ordinance has not changed. That's still the same.
So we're still talking about these side-by-side gas powers that we're gonna
Correct.
allow on the
Correct.
trails that we determined they could operate on.
Correct.
The ordinance from last year was to the golf course and back. That was the ordinance from last year. And so,
That ordinance, that's been in place forever.
right, but that included the UTVs from
Correct.
last year. So what this is saying is that they can be driven only upon the following town maintenance roads, which is practically every road. So that ordinance did change because the original golf cart / UTV ordinance said you could take your UTV, go to the golf course and come back. Well, now it's UTVs can go on every road.
No,
No.
no, not at all. Your UTV ordinance, there was a subsection of the UTV ordinance that said golf carts could go to the golf course and back.
Do we have the original, do we have that?
What you-
Usually, I think what they're saying is right. We'll get more clarification from forward. But the thing about it is, last year when we talked about no through traffic, if you owned a UTV and you had a lot that was on a trail, we would still allow that UTV to go up that lot to that trail. It was just,
This
you know,
is the old one.
it was intended not to allow commercial UTVs. And Chief Barnett may want to add a little bit to that too.
That's
The only
last year.
change we made was the Chestnut. The only change we made to the ordinance as it stood before was adding Chestnut Way by suggestion of the chief of police.
With regard to UTVs,
UTVs only.
correct.
That's the only thing we changed to the UTV ordinance.
And remember, there's still a question as to whether a UTV can operate on a public road anyway, and that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
And we still don't have clarification from the state as to whether an out-of-state registered UTV is allowed to be operated on a town road. But your solution to that last year was to limit UTV driving to certain town roads, which resulted in the commercial UTV operators ceasing operations on Beach Mountain. And that part of the ordinance has not changed.
The club's newsletter has specified to the membership that they do need to register their vehicles. That has been passed, I believe.
It had-
correct? Brian, I didn't see you back there.
Yeah,
You've done that 1 year, 2 years?
we did it last year.
Just last year?
Right.
Okay.
And that's through the town. Beach Mountain Club, was if you want to take your golf cart on the golf course,
Right.
they also give you a...
Right, no, but it was telling the members that they need to register their vehicles
Correct.
if they're gonna be on town roads.
Right.
Going to and from the club. Yeah. 6 did. Out of about 25.
I don't know that there's 25. I mean,
I'm not even sure.
there may be 10 that drive on town roads
Okay,
regularly and go back and forth to the golf course.
okay.
Mark Harris. That's what the
All right.
others used to.
I have a
She's
question
done.
on all of the safety equipment that you want to have put on the golf carts and stuff, which is a great idea. Do any of the golf carts that you know of on Beach Mountain have that kind of safety equipment already? How many of them? Are they licensed? Because I know that there's one licensed golf cart that lives up in Oz, Emerald Mountain. And
Well, a licensed low-speed electric vehicle has nothing to do with this ordinance.
right, so my question is the ones that have all of the safety equipment that you are suggesting, do you know of golf carts that already on Beach Mountain that have that kind of?
I don't think any golf carts have all of the things that we're suggesting. Mainly, we think that these need to be active.
Right. Do you have any idea, like, what that would cost somebody to,
It'll be several $100s to upgrade it,
okay,
to have a horn installed and a mechanically operated horn.
Okay.
You know, the reflectors, if they don't have lights, they should be on the roads anyway.
okay,
Most of the ones operating right now have headlights, taillights, and turn signals. They don't have reflectors, they don't have horns. Some have horns.
They have mirrors, but not turn signals.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Jeff?
I looked up online, the golf course only golf cart is about, the street legal golf cart, which is more than what you're recommending by a bit, but would be required on 184, is about $6,000 more than the golf course golf cart.
So you're saying a cart with all that equipment that would be street legal that you could get a license for is $6,000 more than a golf cart?
To get a license in place would be $6,000 more than a regular golf cart.
Okay, and then you're saying a few $100s to take a regular golf cart and upgrade it with the safety equipment? Okay.
Did you discuss at all if somebody in the future, if we accept this as proposed, in the future, what the penalties might be, should they be violated? Did you discuss that at all?
Carol, I'll address it. The penalties refer back to our penalty section, and the same for all the fines and fees and that type of thing, so it's not a separate penalty. It's just like violation. I think it's $50 or $100. I have to look it up, but there's no separate special fine.
If we wanted to change something, we would do it in that particular area.
No, not necessarily, because, okay, there's two different things. There's fees for inspection permits. That's what you guys really look at. The
Right.
fines are established by statute, that type of thing, refer back to that, so you really don't have any purview over the fine portion.
Okay.
Only the fee for inspections.
My next question is the inspection by the police department. Chief, can you tell us what that would entail? I'm more concerned about brakes. I've gone online and, of course, everything you read online is true. So I've read some stuff about, golf carts going down hills and mountains and having no brakes. So I'm concerned for somebody's safety if that were to happen. What does your inspection include?
Mayor, Council, we're not golf cart experts nor mechanics. We only inspect the visual safety functioning of the golf carts. I've spoken to Mr. Barnes about the golf carts. Those that are electric, they can only top out at 20 miles per hour. Even if they're going downhill, the engine itself will govern it and keep it at a speed of 20 miles per hour. What we do look at on the registration, we do look at the model year, the make, the VIN or the serial number on the vehicle, proof of liability insurance, the driver's license number of the registered owner or the owner of the vehicle, 2 operating headlights, 2 operating tail lights, brake lights, rear view mirror, and as Mr. Urs pointed out, the things that would be added if you choose to adopt this would be the amber reflectors, the red reflectors, and the horn. But the other things, we've always inspected for those items.
Can you add seat belts to those?
I don't think that's necessary. It's not the design of a cart. If properly operated, 1 to a seat at that speed limit, I don't think that would be an excessive requirement. I think what we're going to experience if we were to adopt this today is the vast number of existing carts are not going to be compliant going into this summer. So then the question would be, if approved, do we allow some kind of grace through this summer? Do we simply say, you're going to have to bite the bullet and either upgrade or buy a new compliant cart? But I don't think that requiring seat, I think that's, you don't see them in the vehicles. It would be a aftermarket addition, and I'm not sure that they would vastly increase the safety.
Because the state ones do require.
I was gonna say, does the state road, if you're on the state road, you're required seatbelts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if somebody had a road-ready one right now, it would be a vehicle to be registered if we wouldn't need it.
The guy in Oz, he's got one, he came down to one of the summer concerts at the Slopes last year, and there he was with his 4 people and his seatbelts and his little golf cart. We actually went over and looked at it, because it was like, oh, okay, this is one that's, licensed, so, okay. Personally, I'm not prepared to vote on this today. I want to think about that, so I just wanted to kind of make that clear, though.
Out of curiosity, because the thing that I got to admit I'm very concerned about is kids. We talked in here about licensed drivers. if an unlicensed driver, unlicensable driver, is observed driving a vehicle and one of your officers stops them, what can prevent that person from doing it again? Because you're not going to give a 15-year-old a ticket,
Why not?
would you?
Did their parents?
You can cite the 15-year-old, you have to do it through the juvenile court system.
Right.
But in that scenario, we would cite the parents.
You'd cite the parents,
Mhm.
and that's enforceable
Yes.
today.
Yes.
Okay, and what if it occurs a second time? You cite them again,
You can cite them again and/or arrest.
or the parents?
Mhm.
Yeah, confiscate the vehicle.
See, I was hoping that at some point, we could just say that that car can no longer be licensed, or we will no longer register that vehicle.
We could eventually seize it.
Can we do that?
We could eventually seize it.
Seize it? I
Okay.
don't want to do that.
Well, how else can we handle it?
I understand. That's one way to make sure it doesn't get registered. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Now, as far as your department, how do you see enforcing, how do you see see any problems with this ordinance? I mean, you're the guys that are gonna have to enforce it, number one. Number two, you're the guys that are gonna have to do the inspections. You're gonna have to get a sticker to put on your windshield so it can be visible quickly. And if a police officer passes the golf cart, you should be able to see it
Yes, sir.
right away and know it was inspected.
Maybe 2 stickers, one in the front, one in the back.
No, windshield.
Just enough.
Okay.
But as far as you're the one, if this goes through, this is gonna fall on your department burden as far as controlling what happens on the roads.
The golf cart's been on the roads, it's gonna be just like any other vehicle being on the road. If we see an infraction, or if we see, something that is being done that they shouldn't be done, then it's gonna fall on the officer that observes it to take care of it. And it's just gonna be something we'll just have to keep a track of from this point on, as to, maybe having to readdress it later on down the year sometime, as far as changing the ordinance.
If you issue a ticket to a driver of a golf cart, does that also go on their point system statewide?
Yes. Depending upon the infraction.
Yeah,
Right.
Depending
if
upon
it's a
whether or not-
moving infraction.
Yeah.
If it's equipment, then that's not, that's.
All traffic laws, all motor vehicle laws will apply to the golf carts, just as if you're in your pickup truck driving down the road.
All right, my question to you, again, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is that I work for the pleasure of the town.
You're not gonna get off,
You're smart.
you're not gonna get off with that one.
No.
At this point,
The question is, if you look at the ordinance you sent me, the chief of police, Jeff Hefner, okay, he made a decision on golf carts. So now, you got the pleasure of being chief of police. And we want to put your name on this ordinance somewhere. So stand up and be counted.
again, I work for the pleasure of the town.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that answer, it's proper.
That sounds like a blue blood response.
If it is passed, we will address each situation as it comes, because every situation is not going to be the exact same. So we'll just have to address it as it comes.
Do they have to make an appointment for inspection, or they just show
Yes.
up?
Because you go to them.
Well, they can't bring the vehicle here.
Exactly. He has to go to them.
their property.
They give us a call, and we go to their residence, and we do the inspection there.
Okay, well, one of my recommendations definitely would be that they have to be at least 18 years old and no passenger in the rear facing seat. In other words, the seat that faces out on the golf cart.
If it's a seat, then that's what the seat is designed for.
Then I'll-
What I've seen, and I was originally with Brian and the TDA, we envisioned a golf cart friendly community. My experience with carts on the roads has been people standing up in the bag rack, 3 or 4 people in the buggy, which absolutely I would expect us to enforce. Otherwise, But if it's designed and modified for seats, then that is what the way the ordinance is written, one person per seat. I don't think, and most of them are going to be rear facing. So if we're going to open our town up to this mode of transportation, I think that's a mistaken, that we can't, that there's no reason why the seat has to be facing forward or back if it's a properly fixed seat.
I just don't, for safety reasons, it's facing outward. You cannot see what's happening forward. And as far as I'm concerned, if that, I'll tell you right up front, that has to be part of the ordinance.
That's not the way that's not the way the seats are designed in most of the buggies, and I think
That's fine. I'm just.
Brian, don't you have with
I'm
your,
just putting it out up front that you know up front.
with the carts that you have that you use for transportation and events, they have rear-facing seats, correct?
They do, but, I mean, you can buy golf carts that have all forward-facing seats. There's a longer cart. So, you know, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to say. If it's gonna be moving on the roads, then people facing forward, I think, it's a good safety thing. I mean, the shuttle carts are really used for parking lot event kind of
That's different.
situation, not a road situation. If somebody wants to transport their whole family, they can get a 6-passenger that's all the seats are facing forward.
He's done.
I thought he was done, I was waiting.
Thank you. She's the only one that thinks of it.
We're writing an ordinance that's going to require the vast majority of people that want to utilize it to purchase a new vehicle. Jimmy?
No, I would say that most folks that already have a golf cart are using it for golf, and I don't think you'll end up having,
You don't even have a back seat.
right. I think there's only a few that actually have a rear-facing seat attached to them, and some of them are the modified carts that also have seat belts, but the low-speed electric vehicle is not being considered here, and you keep bringing that up, but that's not anything you can legislate. I mean, if it's licensed by the state, it can operate on the roads. And so those vehicles you talk about have a fixed front windshield, they have a windshield wiper, they have turn signals, they have a lot of things, they have seat belts. They have a lot of things that we're not recommending here because we're not anticipating that folks are going to spend $12,000 for a E-Z-GO 2.5 or a gym car or any of the others. You know, when I first came to Beach Mountain, they had such vehicles. They had several different Bombardiers and different vehicles that were licensable and were being operated on the roads. And then 2003, when we worked on the ordinance at the beginning, it was to help folks to not have to make that investment in a low-speed electric vehicle, but to have the ability to drive on the roads back and forth to play golf, which is, for the most part, what happens. There are folks, though, that, as you know, and the way we've tried to work through this ordinance is to say, let's try to address the way folks are using golf carts now and make it enforceable for the police so that they can have a little bit of teeth behind their enforcement, because people are driving to the lakes and they're driving to tennis and fitness center at the club, and I think folks, I mean, I've seen folks, you know, driving to trailheads and you know, Upper and Lower Pond Creek, for example. So I think what we've written for you, and if it's modified to, you know, the age might be a really good idea, because it's pretty easy to tell somebody that's 18 or 21 over somebody that's 14 or 15 that might be, you know, if 16 is the age that you can be licensed, it's not as easy to identify maybe a 14-year-old that might look 20. So I think that might be a really good suggestion. And the rear-facing seat is another safety thing that we didn't really consider.
All other things being equal, would you pass it back to Tim for a second? All other things being equal, do the police have the ability to stop if a person appears to be underage driving
Yes.
the vehicle? You can stop
Yes.
in that.
We can do an investigative stop to check their age, make sure that they're compliant.
That's helpful to me.
I gotta think about this. was.
Oh,
you
I
know,
still do.
Coming in, I was like not for it, and I made that pretty clear at one of our meetings. You put together some interesting safety equipment that makes it, safety has been my whole issue. It's not against golf carts or anything like that. I wouldn't mind taking a golf cart to Holiday Beach sometimes. But safety has always been my biggest concern. The things that you've put in there help address that. I have to, and I'm always completely honest, I have to weigh that with our roads. And the thing that has always, in our old ordinances and in the current ordinance, the golf cart has to yield right, and on some of our roads, there's no place to yield right, which means a car is gonna have to come into oncoming traffic, and if it's around a curve, and we all know the way people drive in cars around here sometimes, and that's what I have to weigh. So, I mean, I would like to take time and think about this, and if I have other questions, I can either ask Brian or Carol. I might have to talk to the chief also, and you know, just kind of think about that. I'm really now in the middle. So you've done that to me. I didn't think you could, but you've done that to me. So I would propose to the council that we hold off and we go ahead and just put it on our May agenda and then vote on it at that time. And then Carl's comment was is if we should end up voting for it, then we would have to figure out what to do since people aren't going to have that equipment and how they're going to work that out. And that probably should be solved. Get those questions answered actually before the May agenda, get that taken care of if it should pass. Does anybody have anything to say else?
Well, I think you mentioned, Carol, I think you mentioned the time of year that.
It was March through November.
Why not? 12 months a year.
Oh, who wants to drive in the snow?
Pardon me?
Why do you want to drive in the snow?
Well, we don't have snow on our roads all the time. The snow's not on the road. Some of our winter days are very mild. They have been this year.
I think they were looking at that as a safety issue too, and it was more of a convenience thing, and just have it in those off months was not necessary. And so that's why.
I'd hate to see somebody go out there in a golf cart with snow on the ground for fear.
Oh,
I also think
don't disagree.
and you can also have snow in March and November as well.
Yeah.
It was discussed at first to do it from April through October, and the discussion continued, and we went all the way to March and November. But again, I don't think year-round would be safe.
Neither do I. But I had to ask the question.
I think the golf cart committee has put, you know, as many safety restrictions in on this as possible. And one thing that hasn't been mentioned is that, you know, there's got the individual who's willing to take the risk to ride a golf cart on the road. They have to be held accountable. You know, if they're willing to take those risks, I don't think it's, you know, up to council to, you know, I mean, again, all the safety measures have been put in place, and if they're willing to take the risk, you know, it is what it is. No difference in riding your bike around some of these. I mean, some of these bikes that we have, road bikes, go faster than the golf carts, and you know, brakes go out on it, or you know, they wreck going around a curve. There's enough safety features here that you know, should make everyone feel comfortable that you know, it's everything has been done to push this thing forward.
And we also have recommended signage on our mountain for all means of transportation, walking, you know, pedestrians, bicycles, and golf carts if it were to happen. And if the golf carts don't, I still think we need it for pedestrians.
I mean, this has been ongoing for
bikes.
years and years. I think now, you know, it's surfaced, and obviously, since it is continuing to be a topic that most folks are in favor of this. I'd say more in favor than not in favor.
I would have no idea, considering the population that we have on the mountain, to say who's in favor and who's not. I know I've heard from people on both sides, so, but that's a handful of people, so I can't do that. The only thing that I think about too is it, frankly, my husband and I had this conversation, is the government's position to tell people what they can drive and, you know, the safety issues. And whether we can tell somebody that, you know, golf carts are not safe, and so is it our position that we should, like Widener said, should we make that decision? And the only thing that we kind of talked about between us is the government told us many years ago how many people remember driving without seatbelts. And then the government decided it's not safe for us, and so they said you have to wear seatbelts. And remember the ones that came over the hips and how many people started wearing those and ended up getting hurt. So now you've got ones over the shoulder. Many states now require motorcyclists to wear helmets, where they never had to wear helmets before. So in an extent, the government does do, you know, kind of push safety things on you. If you're not wearing your seatbelt, you're going to get a ticket type of thing. I agree with Widener that it is up to the person to take that risk upon themselves also. And that's where my dilemma comes in. And that's what I have to really think about and talk it out with different people. And you've made it very difficult for me, and I really don't like you for it. But yeah, so that's that.
I think the thing that makes it difficult for us down the road is that, let's say that we did this in total, the way it is presented. And let's say 35 or 40 people, I'm just going to throw out a number, go out and they get the exact vehicles that meet the requirements, and we put them on the road. And let's say the following year we have 6 accidents, 3 people get killed. I'm throwing that out as an extreme. Once we put it in place, you couldn't pull it back. You won't be able to pull it back. No matter how many people get injured and how many people get killed.
Wow.
Because then you're having people that put the money into the vehicles that we wanted, and you say now you can't use them. It would be extremely difficult for any council in the future to pull that back. So we need to really be careful.
But extending your same argument, you're gonna say that about cars, bicycles, motorcycles, and the other vehicle. We have unsafe roads. And I think we're losing a little bit of sight of what the grander vision of this is access to the mountain. The way that we live and access the facilities around the mountain, is this something that we believe the people want? And if so, codify it as safely as we can and then approve it. So to me, it is simply, do we see less cars, you know, and more electric vehicles in other ways, whether it be our trails, bikes, whatever, improve the way we get around the mountain. Unlike the mayor, I'm ready to support this and give it a chance that's written. We'll defer to the front-facing seats and even seat belts. I mean, it's something, if it's what the people want and they're willing to meet the requirements, and then we place the onus, you know, on our police force to enforce those rules. But, you know, it becomes part of your vision for the town. Do we see less cars, more electric bikes, other ways for people to get around and enjoy our town?
Golf cart owners are already, they're already, if you will, breaking the law. They're going to the fitness center, they're going to the pool, they go to the club for dinner. So, I mean, it's not like this just started, you know, in the past year. You go down to the fitness center and you may see, you know, 8 or 10 carts down there, folks that are playing pickleball. And so they're already doing it, and they have been for years and years. I don't know, Brian, and how long have you been GM?
19 years.
So in your 19 years, how many accidents are you aware of?
Well, at our last golf cart committee meeting, I asked Captain Renee Carpenter that same question, because she's been here longer than I've been here. And she's been here since the first ordinance was approved, and there haven't been any golf cart accidents on the roads since 2003. And at one point we registered for trail fees about 80 golf carts, and that's dwindled over time to the point where we're registering right at about 50 now that access the golf course with a private cart. And a lot of those folks, as Earth stated, live on the golf course, so they don't have to drive on the roads to get to the course.
But they will. drive on the roads if this is approved, right? You think?
They will only do it if they comply and get registered.
Right, I understand.
Absolutely. I think it was about 65%, 67% of the folks who responded to your survey that you recently did for the long-range planning, for the update of the strategic plan for the town, were in favor of golf cart traffic on the road. So 2/3 of the residents who responded, which there were over 500, I think, that responded, said they were in favor. So if you think about that, there is a majority, maybe a super majority of folks who think this is a good idea in response to somebody's question earlier.
That's why I said there are more folks that are in favor of it than not in favor because of the survey. And, the will of the people is to have this, and we're going to use surveys to make decisions.
Don't take the fact lightly that we're recommending electric battery-powered golf carts. That's self-limiting in and of itself. Access, if you were, for example, going to drive from somewhere out on Greenbrier and go to the golf course to play golf and try to get home, and your batteries were more than a year old, you're not going to be able to make it. So it limits a cart to about a 5 mile, 6 mile trip before it has to be recharged. Internal combustion engine is only limited by the gas tank. So I think that's kind of key here too, that, by opening up the whole mountain, all we're really doing is saying, if you live close enough to wherever you want to go, to be able to get there and back without having to recharge. I think that's kind of key to this as well.
Jeff, can you pass the microphone? Thank you.
Is the next idea to have charging stations?
It's possible, it's possible.
You were joking, but it's possible.
Jeff?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to urge a bit of caution about using the data from the survey to answer questions like this, since almost half of the respondents are here less than 3 months a year, and 80% of the respondents are here less than half a year. So they don't really reflect people who are here for a substantial part of the year. That doesn't take anything away from the survey, but I don't think it should be used in answering this kind of a question.
Thank you, Jeff. Council, anything else?
I'm done.
Done? Anybody else?
Chief?
Troublemaker.
Work at the pleasure of the council.
Okay, well, thank you for everybody's input. We appreciate the effort that the committee has put into this. You've made a good argument, and again, you've given us, given me something to think about, so thank you for that, really appreciate it.
Mary, you can make a motion to table it till the May
Yeah.
7th.
Well, I was going to ask, are we going to set that as a deadline to make our decision
Yeah,
in
we're
the May
gonna-
meeting?
yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's
So-
fair to any of the
No, I agree.
stakeholders.
And that gives
Pass it.
time for people to get word out.
So,
And for us to.
do I hear a motion that we table this to the May 4th May 4th, thank you, May 7th meeting, and where we will make a decision on this?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Carl motioned and Barry second. Any more discussion? All in favor of tabling till the May meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for your input. We do appreciate it.
And I want to thank the committee for working hard on it.
Very much so.
I appreciate your input, and you've given us a lot of information to think about. I think it's not an open, close type of decision, but I think it was well thought out. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the health insurance plan, Mr. Holloman.
Thank you, Mayor. We talked about this at our last meeting, your last meeting. We're looking at the Med 700 plan to recommend to take effect July 1st. We have Angela Green here with us in case you have any questions. There are a few members of the health committee, here's Health Insurance Committee as well, but we still stand to recommend to approve it. We recommend the council to approve switching to the League and MedCost and the Med 700 plan specifically.
Okay, we've had time to look over the plan. We've got folks from the committee, and just for those who are not aware, there was a committee put together of employees, for the department heads. They went and have been through a series of meetings since November regarding the existing insurance and the new insurance. They went back to their co-workers and talked about it, and everybody got the information. The league came out and presented to the folks, and I guess it was a pretty well unanimous decision that they all preferred the league's 700 insurance plan.
It has a healthy provider network,
Yeah.
more so.
So I'm going to put somebody on the spot.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Meeny,
sort of-
miny, mo.
Did you have a chairperson other than the town manager?
No, we didn't really have a
No.
chairperson, but
No.
Daniel was on it,
Okay.
Bob Pudney was on it, John was in some of the meetings, John and Preston kind of shared it, Riley was in here for the Health and Insurance Committee meetings. Kate Prisco was for rec, so she's not here today. So, and Tim Barnett, Captain Carpenter was here for most of those meetings for the police department.
Chief Pudney, you were part of that committee and listened to everything, and you know how the other,
I can come up.
I can do it on the spot.
you won't be the only one, I promise you that.
It's the red shirt.
He could have wore blue.
For fire. Yeah, I was a member of the committee. As you know, the decision last year with the self-insured, continuing with the self-insured, there were some hiccups with that, predominantly with the rollout, and more importantly with the lack of providers in that network. And that was, as you recall, that was a reference-based pricing model that was a different way of doing medical insurance for employees. So that prompted the town manager to put together a committee of the departments representing all the employees to take a look at what was available. We looked at the existing plan, the reference-based pricing plan, as well as the administrator. As you know, the plan is not only the insurance plan, but the administrator. We looked at the available network of providers, and for me, more importantly, we took a look at what was the risk, not only to the employee, because with the reference-based pricing, there was a big switch, a transfer of risk to the employee, as well as the town. I'm a taxpayer in the town, so I kind of looked at it from both perspectives. And with the self-insurance, as you know, the risk to the town can be substantial, even though we're covered with stop-loss insurance for the real big critical ones. But the cost to the town and the taxpayer, there was quite a bit of risk there. And from the employees' perspective, we did a survey of the employees and the departments, and they were interested in what they considered to be more traditional insurance, something that was less risk. In other words, once you either pay your premium for your family or your coverage, or you got the premium paid for as an employee by the town, and you got your card, they wanted the simplicity of going to a provider and presenting their insurance card and getting service. And that's not the way it was through the reference-based program. So we took that, and the league plan is a more traditional plan, and it addressed those important issues. Number one, it removes the risk to the employee. There's a finite cost. There's out-of-pocket, maximum out-of-pocket. There's co-pay, co-insurance, but it's all specified in the plan. And there's a finite number of dollars that the employee is at risk for. It's not open-ended, and the employee isn't asked to sign a document at the medical facility being responsible for an unknown cost, and the plan representing the employee to negotiate that benefit, but ultimately the employee was responsible. So that was key. And as important to the town, the league plan removes the risk to the town. The town pays a fixed premium that you know beforehand when you prepare the budget, and that is the limit of the town's risk. And as a taxpayer, I like that. We asked the manager, can you do a comparison? We needed to see some numbers. and it's hard to compare reference-based pricing with the more traditional insurance, but the manager put together as close to apples as you could. And if you assume the same risk that we were assuming through the current plan and use the quote that we just received, there's a savings, which I was surprised, to be honest with you, and so I like that. There's a savings to the town. We eliminate risk to the town as well as the employee, and we're providing what I consider to be a much better plan that is provider-based. There's a wealth of providers in this area. The plan is administered by a different administrator, which personally, I believe that's an improvement. MedCost is the provider that's going to handle that. So when we put it all together, it was a win-win for the town, for the taxpayer, and for the employee. So when I was asked, representing the fire department employees, I voted yes. And I think there was a lot of effort put into it. Manager did a real good job getting the information that was required and requested by the committee. We've had presentations, and health insurance is a big deal. It's expensive. It's a big part of our budget, but it's also a big thing to the employee, as you know. And I think it's a win-win for the town and the employees, and we recommended it.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask for your taxpayer hat, not your employee. I understand this is a more attractive plan for the employees, and I understand why. As we go back to why we look to try something new, and that was to address the ever-escalating cost of healthcare. And by addressing this plan, we are going to be back in that situation again, like any other organization or municipality, facing the unknown of ever-increasing healthcare risks. In these discussions within the employees, was there an understanding that we're going to reach a point where greater and greater cost sharing is going to be required to provide this type of coverage, which is not simply our town, that's all organizations.
Sure. To answer your question, yes, we discussed that in the committee, the contribution that the employees currently provide, and increasing that. And the numbers we put together, I think we reflected it in our report to you. We took the existing and we doubled it and showed you what the double would be. So from a taxpayer's perspective, yes, there was discussion in the group for an increased employee contribution. To more closely try to make that apples to apples analysis, because numbers are everything for everybody. It became more complicated the more variables we added to the component. So what was proposed to you was keeping everything is basically the same as we could from the existing plan to what's being proposed, and try and come up with some numbers, which again, I'm going to reiterate it because I think it's important. There's a savings if you make that comparison to the town and the taxpayer from what we're paying in today's plan to what we would be paying under this plan for the next fiscal year. So that, I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but, if we can get a better plan that the employees and the town saves money, if you don't argue how much money are we going to save, because that obviously is an issue, this is a better deal for everyone concerned.
With less exposure to the town and the employee.
And that is a major key.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a big deal for the employee, and it's a big deal for the town.
And like you said, you know what your fixed costs are, and for budget reasons, you can take that into account.
I would take slight issue with that. You know your fixed cost on a year-to-year basis.
Correct.
What you don't know is where that number is going.
Well,
and it's the ever-increasing cost of providing insurance to employees. And we're back in that business. with this. I support it, I get why, I'd love to not be out on the market, tell you what I pay for a similar plan personally. So I know the benefit to the employees, but I also know the exposure to the ongoing costs that we're signing back up for. I get that it was unpopular what we did. We can't be faulted for trying to address the elephant in the room, which remains employee benefits.
Before 2 years ago, 2 fiscal years, well, 2 fiscal years ago, our overall plan was about $589,000. And with the employees contributing what they contributed, but it's probably maybe about the same. So it's $589,000. The plan from last year brought us to $493,700, according to what we got here. This plan brings us down to $491,706. So we're doing what we set out to do last year, where we told you, Tim, that we would like to save $100,000. We basically did that. And now we're actually saving more. Is that?
Saving more based on the claims cost.
Right.
Well, that would have been my question,
Right.
Jane, that's we had a quote-unquote good year.
And we've had a lot of claims this year, so we will experience extreme savings.
So we
by
did
going
have
to
a
this
lot of
plan.
claims this year.
Yes. And one thing, that's one
Did you
thing,
say we were up to like 93%?
I think we're actually closer to 100 as of the last report we got.
Okay, so that's a lot of claims.
That's a lot of claims.
Okay.
Nothing catastrophic, but a lot of
Right,
claims.
but, yeah,
And that's
sure.
one thing, that self-funded will always look good at the beginning of the budget year, because, we're basing it on
Starting
86% of the claims, or you're less than that, but this, I'm much more confident it's not claims.
Right.
And we will have to address, maybe not this year, but employees in subsequent years, what increases, some of that will probably fall back to the employees.
And I do want to talk about the employees' contribution in this meeting too. But, so basically, we have saved money. It is a more traditional plan. I think most people are always more comfortable with the 80/20 plans. I mean, that's what you're used to and from way back when and stuff. And it's a really good insurance plan. Thank you very much. So getting down to the employees' contributions. Now, I see that, like for the single employee, the current plan it came out to a total of $469, and now we're down to $467. So that's less as far as the contribution from employees.
Yeah.
Carl, you were asking something about at the last meeting, the percentage of.
And I think that has to do simply with bonuses. But I think that is what I'm driving at is the cost of salaries and benefits, and the percentage of that to the budget is not a number that can continue to escalate without rise.
Right.
I mean, we're gonna reach a point where we can't tax these fine folks anymore
Right.
to pay for it.
Right.
The 2% I was driving at, I think, has to do with the annual bonuses, if I remember,
Okay.
from trying to dig back through, which I also feel should be capped at some point. You can't continue to let any of these rise. But again, I get why the employees want it. Our job, it saves this year. I would support providing this to the employees. Strongly encourage they use the cost saving, the wellness things that, and if they don't, all of those additional costs fall to them. If we're gonna spend $500,000 to round it up to provide health care, then the employees have to be our partners in doing everything to stay healthy, taking advantage of everything that the plan provides, doing the wellness checks and all that. To help, the number that scares me is where is it going? Nationwide, healthcare expense.
Okay.
That's a necessary evil with the health insurance.
You're finding more and more private organizations are not. They'd rather pay you more salary and let you go out into the market and buy it. And I bet if you polled our employees, if we took this $500,000 and wanted to divide it out of salary and say, go get your own insurance, a lot of them are going to take the money and gamble. We're providing them that safety net. And this is a hell of a benefit in today's world as someone who is now self-employed and is having to go out and purchase it myself. What's this going to cost next year, the following year, the year after that? At what point do we say, okay, we can no longer provide that?
Well, when you get your own insurance, I mean, whether you use it or not, your insurance always goes up at a minimum of 20% every year. I mean, that's
It's automatic.
I mean, it's automatic and it doesn't make a difference. So, I mean, at least we're kind of staying steady at this point. Okay.
So we have, I mean, this isn't a whole lot different than our company. The town's got 55 employees, we have 52. Last year, our insurance went up 3%. Year before that, it didn't go up anything. This past year, our insurance went up 12%. And it's, I mean, there's not a, you can encourage folks to eat healthier, exercise, try to keep your claims down. And ultimately, those costs have to be passed to the employee. It's necessary, it's a double-edged sword.
Okay. Sean, would you mind coming up and answering a couple questions for me? So you're getting put on the hot spot. You're a brand new
He
dad.
thought by putting Kate on the committee, he was getting out of it.
I know.
Yeah, that's
So last year, you know, you really didn't have a family to think about, and you had that insurance, but then now this year you have a family. I think you had your wife, but you know, you have a family to think about. How do you feel about this new insurance? And how do your employees feel about it? Two questions.
Sure. It's really hard to actually answer the one for the employees. Is I haven't spoken to them. Kate's been kind of representative for this.
Okay.
So we haven't discussed this, and I mean, as a family, it's looking at if things aren't really changing and going up a whole lot on me on because we did put talent on my insurance versus my wife's. She has the state plan also through the university system, and to do that was $300 a month just for him. And so I said, well, ours is $50 a month. I'm going to use mine. We compared the two. I called the insurance company. I said, where's this difference? And again, this is talking about the current plan, not what's in front of you. At that time, they said, you're getting the same benefit, but you're going to be paying a lot more out of pocket in the end when it comes to that was the separation. We pay a whole lot more out of pocket per month with hers, and maybe we have no claims a month. But on our end, it was paying less a month. We kind of said, let's play the gamble, but at the end, if we said there was a major claim, we would pay more with our current plan than what we would pay with hers, but we would pay more out of pocket every month with hers. So that's how we justified going with this one. Because luckily, we have a nice, healthy baby. But, yeah, so staying with this plan, I would still probably keep him on my plan again, because he's the only one on it. Luckily, she has her own. If that were to change, then we would discuss that at that point. But I can't speak for the rest of my staff.
Okay, I didn't realize
I think they all have the
I
kind
think
of
I
the
knew
same
that.
sentiment. They're like, as long as the costs aren't going up on us. Sean McDavid probably the next one. I don't think anybody else, other than Kelsey, she put her husband and child on her insurance. But I would ask Sean McDavid actually how he really feels. He does take these things into very hard consideration. So I think he would be a great person to ask. I asked him before, and he's also kind of one that if he is bummed out, you don't hear a whole lot. You have to pry into him a little bit. Yeah.
Well, good to know. Well, thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Sorry I
it.
couldn't help on that.
Not here. Not here.
Brian's got a question.
Daniel.
Yeah, Brian.
I don't know if we're allowed to speak, but
Sure, we're going to just go for it.
I'm on the board of directors of the YMCA, and several of the board members there have a similar plan to what the club does, which is a combination of the two. It's not self-insurance, it's not a traditional plan, it's a hybrid plan. So one of the big factors in the premium is the level of the deductible. So as you raise the deductible, it raises the out-of-pocket to the employee, but it also lowers the premium, so it lowers the cost to the town in this case. So what the club does, what Grandfather Mountain does, what Skybest does, what some of the other leaders that are on that board do is a hybrid plan where we have a higher deductible and we self-insure only the difference between what we ask the employee to pay and what we reimburse that employee for if it goes over that amount. So one thing you might want to consider, and you may have already considered it because I haven't looked at it, but one thing you might want to consider is raise the deductible and then decide and set aside, Grandfather Mountain does this, they set aside $100,000 and they refund only the portion that they spend every year out of their budget, and they have over 100 employees. They do a really good job of self-insuring and minimizing their risk by raising the deductible and reimbursing only those employees that need to use the insurance over the minimum amount that they require out of pocket for the employee. So just something for you to consider as you're going through the budget.
Okay, thank you.
And just to, Tamara and I looked at two other plans. We talked a little bit with the league about high deductible. There was another company who talked about that suggested a high deductible. But based on what the cost was this year, we didn't see that as a viable option because we were trying to get the employees back on a level of confidence with health insurance.
Right.
And we didn't want to try again with a high deductible plan that, in my mind, seemed kind of experimental. I mean, some people are familiar with it, but we did look at some of those plans.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Daniel, come on down. We're going over.
As far as Public Works was concerned, the general consensus was the compromise that Tim just mentioned. They kind of felt pulled left to right. You know, when the whole package rolled out last year, several doctors were unavailable. You know, they really felt like they didn't have insurance, and the backside of that was, well, if you have insurance, you may or may not get to use it. You may be sued, you may be not. So, you know, it was an issue of confidence, and it is still an issue today. Now, several of the Public Works employees that had used our insurance were very unhappy with our previous plan administrator. And that was another of the loud complaints is, you know, the beauty of the standard insurance plan is you can call a person and get an answer. And that's really what they want to do. You know, the employees do understand that we're working with the town, you know, and as, you know, administration at Public Works, we're trying to build confidence in our employees and build that relationship between the employee and Beach Mountain. Long-term employees, confident employees that want to do service to Beach Mountain and feel like in return they have salary compensation and they have insurance to cover them as they do that work. It's a comfort level. We do understand as a whole, insurance goes up every year. So does every other bill that we have. It's the norm. We do understand that for a good product, you pay a higher price. And there was no, you know, as Bob had said, you know, we discussed that. We just want to be confident that we have insurance that we can use, that will cover us, won't get us into trouble, and will allow us at that point to do those things Carl was discussing, you know, the healthy measures, preventative maintenance on ourselves, as it were, and not feel like that we can't go to the hospital. We feel awful, you know. Personal experience, I got really sick 2 years ago from the flu. I didn't go to the doctor, and it ended up, I had some infection in my brain, I had other issues, and I had difficulty walking for about 3 months. I didn't go to the doctor because I couldn't get there for one, I couldn't get the appointment, I didn't want to go and pay for the emergency room visit, I didn't want all of these things to pile up on me with the expectation that this would be a passing illness. And that's where one of the big, you know, the great things about this kind of plan is this teledoc. You know, as Tim said, we didn't have any really serious things go on, but what we do have is a lot of men with children, you know, they've got an ear infection, they have to run to the doctor. Well, you call the doctor and we can see you in 3 days, we can see you in 6 days, and that doesn't help the child. This is another way that, you know, we really like, everybody was enthused about this, is, you know, the small things that keep us from rushing to the emergency room. It's a benefit. We spend less money, the town spends less money, everybody stays healthier. You know, so again, it just, from their point, it's confidence.
I have a question with that. Does any, Daniel or anybody else, I talked to somebody who knows MedCost and says they're primarily a North Carolina thing. I'm not sure how is the doctors in Tennessee on that plan? Have your guys looked at that?
We did. We had a full list. I actually got with the guys, showed them the list, say, are you covered here? You know, could you be covered? Do you have a specialist in Johnson City? You know, if you're going here, if you're going there. Everything we could find, everybody that was interested, anybody that looked, we're covered.
Really?
We're covered in North Carolina, we're covered in Tennessee.
That's great.
We're covered from general physicians all the way to, we are looking into ear, nose, and throat at this point. That's how far we got down the line, trying to make sure that everybody's doctor that they have now has this ability. And everybody, it's like, we're good. You know, that's confidence.
Yeah.
Now, the only other thing to this, and I promised the guys that we would reiterate this to the council, is let's choose this
And leave it alone.
and let's leave it alone. You know, let's stop filling out new forms every year. Let's not, you know, this is what we're going to do. We understand we'll work together on this, but let's pick it and let's stick with it.
I believe we have heard you.
Yeah.
So,
And I think Tim has already committed that the committee or group will still have input throughout the year. And we know from talking to Rob at the last meeting that there can be changes made in the future as we proceed.
but we're not going to be switching insurance.
Yeah.
Hopefully, whichever council comes next.
Mhm.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Bob and Sean and Daniel for sharing. Does the council have a discussion on this?
I don't know.
No?
I mean, well, again, I'm in support of doing this, but I appreciate what Daniel said about not changing. It remains incumbent upon this and future councils to stay on top of this issue. Not, hey, we've got it, and in 3 years, when the league says it's 25% more, we're back to ground B.
I think
I'd like to see some exploration as to the hybrid. If there's a way for us to save money by setting aside, you know, by going with a higher deductible plan, it's not going to increase the employees out of share, call it a gamble or whatever, you know, that's cost savings we should look at. It remains incumbent to try to contain these costs as much as possible while providing, you know, would the employees like more? Sure. Would we like to be able to give them more? But this seems to be acceptable and desired by them. But again, my cautionary tale is it remains an expense that has to be monitored and continually worked. We can't just take it and, hey, let's ride that ever upward curve.
And one thing I think I like about this plan, we still have quarterly reports, so we'll be getting
Well, you
updates.
actually get a monthly report every month.
So
Exactly where your plans are.
we can monitor it still, so that's gonna help a lot.
But I'm sure the employees understand that every year,
It's gonna,
there's gonna be an increase.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean, we look at it as a utility.
But it's the same insurance plan
Yes.
for the most part, and that's where the confidence comes in.
Right.
I mean, no matter what insurance or whatever, even, you know, every year they're gonna go up, so your premiums are gonna go up. Everybody's gotta share the cost.
Yeah,
That's the way it works.
that's what he said. So I think they understand. I mean, that's life. Do we want to vote on this at our May meeting, or do we want to vote on it now? Does council want to take time
I
to
think
think
for
about
budgeting
this?
purposes now might be.
Unless council I don't know of anything else we can bring.
Okay.
I think,
Yeah.
we would request a vote now, so we can start lining up.
Well, that would have been my thought. The earlier we can move to mitigate the hassle of their changing
I
to
was
the
just
plan.
wondering how you felt about the hybrid, if you wanted to.
I don't think that there's time to do anything for this year. My thought is if we commit, we move to this plan, that becomes incumbent upon us and the manager and all to explore ways to, if we're going to provide this level, let's find any unique ways. And, you know, these, as Brian mentioned, there are forward-thinking organizations that are, you know, are dealing with that. And that's something that we need to do as opposed to just, you know, it's going to be a $500,000 plus whatever percentage every year. But I'm prepared to make a motion that we adopt, you know,
The 70/30.
the 70/30 as presented and recommended by the employee council.
Carl's made a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right.
Just for informational, one of your earlier Tucker plans, goes back several years, and I didn't bring the documents with me, did include something like that.
The
It was a
high.
high deductible, and the town actually subsidized part of the employee's deductible. So y'all have been there before.
Okay. But it seems like a way to potentially save some money overall if we don't, or does it, in hindsight, it kind of is a push? Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, Wendell second. Any more discussion? All in favor of accepting the insurance plan as written, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Can I suggest, before we get into the new business of the budget, that we take a 10 or 15-minute break, please? Okay. Thank you.
Tim wants to get a Coke.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right.
We're not leaving because it's boring.
Sure,
You
yeah.
just want to pass the fire department tax administration.
Okay, you got it. Have fun.
See you. Have fun. Good time.
Ooh, coffee? I didn't know there was coffee. All right, we're taking a minute.
You need to get recharged, man.
I didn't know there was coffee.
You got enough batteries?
They're coming out if there was coffee. The recordings will be coming.
We will stay. We will.
Where's my new guy?
Coffee.
Oh.
Don't worry, we don't go for it.
To make sure the caffeine up.
Comment. Comment. It's all Liger's fault. Maybe your Liger's comment. Okay. Thank you for being patient. Okay, back from our 15-minute break. We're going to move on to the new fiscal year's budget.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we get started, just to kind of bring everybody up to speed where we're at, we have Dale Shepherd, who'll be giving you about a 20-minute presentation on the utility rate study and the ongoing work with that. And after he finishes up, I'll begin the PowerPoint presentation on the budget. A high-level view, we'll go through each section, each fund. So our target right now is to finish up by 1 o'clock or before. If we have a little bit of time before 1, we'll start usually after we go through the high level, I'll start going page by page. If we don't get to the page by page today, we'll do some of that on the 7th. And then we have another meeting on the 24th of May, and then the final meeting on the 11th of June. So I think we should have plenty of time. But that kind of lets you know what the plan is for the rest of the morning and early afternoon. And now I'll turn it over to Dale Shepherd, and he'll go over the handouts he just presented to you guys.
Thank you very much, Tim. Good morning, Madam Mayor, council members, Tim, staff, and everyone in attendance. I'll start off by saying that McGill Associates does have med costs, and we are very satisfied.
It's good to hear, seeing as how we just voted for it.
Confirmation there. Okay, my job is to present to you on an annual basis kind of the state of the utility, if you will. We do that by preparing a rate study, an analysis that follows the AWWA standards in terms of how we approach that work, how we develop the methodology that's specific to Beach Mountain, the costs that are included and how they're managed and calculated, to give you a rate analysis that is cost justified. It's a cost of service approach to evaluating the rates and kind of letting you know where we're at on an annual basis, what's going on and what we're doing to address the needs of the utility. The goal is for that utility to be self-sufficient, it needs to be sustainable, needs to be reasonable to the extent possible, and it needs to be applicable. In other words, you can understand what the charges are, how we got to what those charges are, how we apply those, how we build those into your billing system to generate the revenues that we've projected in the model, keep things going. Okay, I'd like to thank Steve and Robert and Daniel for patiently walking through the almost endless iterations of what we need to do and how we need to approach these things. Because as you know, your system is only as good as those people that are running it, those people that are making those decisions and bringing recommendations to you. So I'd like to thank them for their input and their support through this whole process to get us to where we're at today. Okay, so in a nutshell, we're using the cash needs approach, which is an AWWA standard. The methodology is that we determine what the revenue requirements are for the utility. In other words, how much money does it take to run the whole thing? Then we look at the allocation of those costs to those functional requirements of the utility, and then we translate that into an allocation of costs to various customer classes. Okay, so I'm going to start kind of from the back end on this thing just for a moment, because on Beach Mountain we have kind of a unique situation in terms of the annual population, the consumption patterns and so forth, but there isn't a lot of difference in those consumption patterns between the various customer classes. Okay, so you're not going to see a lot of difference in the rates that we apply to the different customer classes, because functionally they all kind of operate the same. They have the same sorts of demands on the system, the same sorts of peak demands on the system, and those sorts of things. So there's not a lot of allocation to different customer classes that makes a big difference in how we bill and how we collect the money to run the utility. Okay? So
can I just ask one question? Sorry to interrupt. Just make sure when you're talking, you tell them title which document they're looking at.
Okay.
Just to clarify. So.
Okay, so if you look at the rate sheet, I mean, it's kind of going to the end first, but if you look at the rate sheet, you'll see that there isn't a lot of difference in those fixed costs, the base, the minimum, that includes the 3,000 gallons residential versus commercial, they're identical. And then you see that there's a bit of a difference on the volume charge, not a lot, as you make those applications there. And that's simply a function of the characteristics of those two customer classes that produce that.
Dale, I think there's one thing too that's going to look different. My proposal this afternoon, I think the minimum's going to be $39.50, not $39. It's supposed to be $1.50. Yeah.
Okay, now that includes
steal your thunder.
That includes surcharge. Right?
The surcharge is going to be a capital fee, so this may not be exactly what we're showing in the budget. We're showing $1.50 water, $1.50 sewer, so water residential rates I think should be $39.50 as opposed to, because this year they're $38. Anyway, you can still see the principle, but the numbers look a little bit different when I do my presentation.
Okay. All right. Well, my apologies for not being on the same page exactly. I was maybe given a little different information, or didn't interpret it correctly. But at the end of the day, that's a difference that you're not going to see a lot of difference again between the commercial and residential. It's consistent year over year, that sort of thing. So anyway, let's go to the first page, which is the revenue requirements analysis. That would be the one that's not color coded, the big sheet that's not color coded.
You don't have any of these on slides for us?
No. We'll have to do PDFs after the meeting.
Okay, so revenue requirements again is the part of the exercise, part of the process that says how much money does it take to run your utility. Okay, so in the top section, rows 1 through 5 is the revenue projection. Okay, the revenue projection you'll see is fairly flat. You don't have a lot of organic growth in your system, not a lot of connections, not a lot of variation in use year over year. So if we if we take the existing rates in fiscal year 19, which is the test year, and project those things forward, you'll see that, that those numbers are pretty flat running across. Okay? So the next section is simply those non-revenue sources, those things, the revenues that we collect beyond meters. Okay, that also includes appropriation from reserve for various items. You'll notice in the test year there's a pretty sizable amount there. Included in that is the gate repair for the reservoir and some other larger items that roll up into that number. Then beyond that, the last section of the revenue side of the equation is the projected revenue increases that are required. And those come in the form of two revenue sources. One is a surcharge, which is the first line starting in fiscal year 19 at $25,000 and continuing on. You'll see over to the right a little note that says $1 per connection per month. In 19 runs to $3 per connection in 20 and beyond, or excuse me, in 20 and then $5 in 21 and beyond. Okay, so that's how we made up those, that's how those numbers are made up. Okay, so those, then we also have an increase to the rate, which is the next section, the rest of that section, lines 11 through 15. Okay, and they generate those amounts of money as the years move along, totaling up on the bottom to give you a total revenue along the bottom line. Okay. So we flip the page to expenses, make sure that the money that we're collecting is going to be able to pay for all the things we need to pay for. Those things you'll find in rows 18 through 25 are those operation and maintenance expenses. To the left of each description, you'll see the percentage increase year over year that's applied to the projection in fiscal year 20 and beyond. Okay. The other operating expenses, you'll see a whole host of debt service entries. One is existing, it's what you got on the books today, and then one of the major purposes of the model is to determine what those future debt obligations are going to be, and then manage those in this revenue and expenses model. Okay, and you'll see those in the other operating expenses as shown. At the bottom of that section, line 37, is cash finance capital improvements. Those are the things we're going to pay cash for year over year. Okay. We get down to total expenses, then we do the math to see if we're in the black and the red. Parentheses obviously is a bit below, revenue is a little bit below expenses, and non-parentheses is the opposite. I'll draw your attention to lines 43 and 44. Okay. One of the fiscal measurements that we use pretty regularly is we kind of keep pace and keep a pulse on the unrestricted net assets. Okay. Now these are the town's assets that are not designated for specific uses that basically you can't touch. Okay. It doesn't translate entirely into cash, but as a good kind of indicator of the overall health, blood pressure, pulse, respiration, that kind of thing, we monitor that for a number of utilities as kind of a base measurement to kind of judge a bit from a distance the overall health of the utility. Okay, in many utilities, they try to keep that number above 50%. We're quite a bit healthier than that here in Beach Mountain. That number translates into 95%, basically as a percentage of total expenses as we make that measurement. Moving out into the projected years, that grows a little bit, shows some good conservative fiscal management. We want to stay at or above what we're doing today as we move forward. We don't like to see that thing going down and continuing to go down. Okay, we've also had the LGC does monitor our financial state pretty closely here in North Carolina, and I've actually had an opportunity to chat with those folks and understand that it's not just one measurement. You know, if this number goes to here, you're in trouble. It's a comprehensive look at everybody's management as this one. You can also look at the NC State rates dashboard. There are about 6 or 7 financial indicators there, and if you check that, Beach Mountain's indicators are in good position there too. So you can check that too as kind of another backdrop to what's the overall health of your utility in some broad and general terms. Okay, so line 45 gets to kind of to the point of the conversation today is what happens with an average residential bill as this projection moves out. And you'll see that the current average bill is $87.50. That's just taking all the billed revenue from residential, dividing it by all the consumed gallons in residential, and you come up with this number. Okay, then as we apply those rate increases, those rate adjustments that you see along the top of the table, 2.3%, 3.3%, et cetera, and then we apply that gives you an amount of that rate increase, which would be the $2 in fiscal year 20, the surcharge that's applied, and then the net result on that average bill, taking it to $93.50, and then at the bottom is the overall difference month over month that bill would have on that same average residential bill that we calculated from the total dollars received by the total consumption used by that particular customer class.
Just made note here too, it's just water and sewer, doesn't show the recycling or sanitation on these average bills.
Right, right, and this is the combined bill of water and sewer. Okay. So one last thing, just for your edification here, is on the right, there are a few notes that kind of help describe what's going on. So in other words, the debt service in line 28 that's issued, it's called Proposed 2018. That's actually the project is funded by the State Revolving Fund. They made that determination in 18, so that's why it's labeled as 18, even though we're in 19 and beyond. So then over to the right, you can see, you know, it's SRS approved. I put a 3% interest placeholder on that. Typically, SRF is, well, by definition, FRS is half market value. Right now, it's running about 2%, somewhere in that neighborhood. So again, a little conservative on the projection at 3%, but you know, they haven't locked it in, so I can't land on it and say, yeah, this is 2.01%. It's going to be somewhere in that neighborhood, I would guess. I'm an economist, I'm not a soothsayer or anything like that, so I can't tell you exactly, but I would bet my farm if I had one that it's going to be 3% or less. So that's how we landed on that. You'll see that we have some other debt issuances as we move forward. We have some other sewer rehab and water improvements scheduled out in 22 and 23, and then you'll see that in I think that's line 31, or no, line 30, that's the Public Works facility. There's a portion of that debt that's going to ride with the Water and Sewer Fund, and that's the amount that we show in that particular row. Okay, and that debt service amount was provided by the town. They've already secured that, and it's just simply entered. It doesn't have a conservative factor to it or anything like that. That's a known quantity, no one's going to begin, and it's entered as such. Okay? Last but not least is the capital improvements plan. Fiscal years 20 through 29. Okay, rate studies, typically the thing that you have the most control over and has the greatest impact on your rates is your capital plan. Okay? If you don't mind, I want to just skip to the last page really quickly. When we're talking about magnitude, the 5-year, well, actually, I see a small error there. I have the last sheet did not carry through. That's a 10-year CIP cost. In that first column with the numbers in it, that's a 10-year. Okay, the first 2 pages say it's 10. I just see now that didn't carry over. So that's a 10-year CIP. So in the next 10 years, you have capital needs of $27,900,000, roughly.
The numbers are right, it's just the.
Yeah, the numbers are right, the column.
Column title is wrong.
Yeah, the column title, just on that one. The rest of the titles on the previous 2 pages say it's 10 year, that just didn't happen to carry over. Okay, so and we'll jump back up to a couple of specific items there that will be of interest here in a moment. But if you're looking at the last page, you'll see down at the bottom a few color codes there. And those are items that we are projecting and planning on debt to pay for those particular projects. And I mean, you can see why, because they're sizable. And again, we are looking to keep the rates as manageable as we can. Okay, so the color coding, the color goes with the particular project. So the very first one that you see is kind of an orange color for $2 million. If you go up to page 1, okay, the first item under sewer main, you'll see that same orange on that same value. Okay, so that's where that comes from. All right, so in the next 10 years, we have projected 7 debt issuances for major capital projects, the amounts of which are totaled up at the bottom. The color coding allows you to look at what those are individually, and then you can see where those are coming from and when they occur. Okay. So moving back up a little ways, let's see, page 1. Go back to page 1 of that bundle. You see the potential raw water intake project.
You left the tog off, but that's okay.
Well, right now we have that forecast for capital needs in year 6. Okay. Again, this is kind of a conservative approach. We put it there. We're kind of thinking maybe we have a long way to go for a number of things. You'll notice also on that first page, let's see, items number 3, 4, and 5 are the supplemental wells that we're looking at. Again, there are a number of parts that are still moving a bit on us in terms of this particular 15 million project for the potential for raw water intake for the Cog River. So within, I was just talking to Daniel this morning, it'll probably take somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 24 months to complete the test well drilling and testing for yield and all those sorts of things to see what viability that might have.
Will they be productive?
Yeah, on this whole scenario. So as some of these balls are still in the air, this river intake project could change and it could move. So that's why we're putting it out just a little further than the financial analysis. You see that's a projection for 5 years. And that's solid. We know what we're doing there. We've got infrastructure we need to update, rehab, maintain, those sorts of things. Those are needs that even if we had no problems, no issues with our water supply, those are the things we still need to do. And we can forecast those things accurately and plan and project for those in 5 years and set the rates accordingly. And as this particular project takes its final form, shape, and position, then we can plan and implement rate adjustments accordingly.
Why go to the additional expense of drilling for wells when the Watauga intake project is moving forward? What's the correlation there?
Well, depends on how much time you have and how much explanation you need. It's
Got 1 minute or less.
Okay. Right now, we are not sure exactly of the amount of water that
They may
the
produce.
current, well, the amount of water that's in the stream right now, we're not sure exactly what amount there is that we're entitled to today. We're getting that solved.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you gave me less than a minute.
How much water you're taking out of the?
The Watauga River?
No, out of the current stream, Buckeye.
Okay.
Oh, well.
Okay, we're, DNR, Army Corps, and others are in the process of solving that now.
You're talking about the release of the water, is that what you're talking about?
And
Okay.
there's about 5 or 6 pieces that go
Yeah.
into that number that you're talking about.
All right.
So that still has to be resolved. Okay, then from there, we will know exactly what we need to get or look for supplementally to satisfy what we need overall. Okay, so is it 2 million gallons out of the Watauga River? I can't bet the farm on that today. It might be less than that, which could save, a bit, well, could save quite a bit on capital cost of the Watauga project. But we don't know that for sure just yet. If we can supplement with wells for some additional supplemental capacity, then that number might change a little bit more too.
What's the cost for the well?
The test wells are listed there.
Roughly 83,000.
About $83,000 fees.
And how many gallons, what kind of flow do you need?
Let's back up a little bit before you get too far ahead of yourself. The 83 is just for exploration.
Yes.
Construction for 3 wells will be about $3 million. So I don't want to come back and say.
In total.
So what we're looking at now is just doing exploration on 3 to see where that puts us at. So yes, we're gambling slightly with $250,000 to see what these wells produce in the hopes, okay, well, can it delay or eliminate the Watauga down the road and only be $3 million for construction versus $16 million? And if I oversimplified it, y'all take it from there.
Right. And the other part of this whole discussion, this whole effort is the day that the town moves forward, if it comes to, we need to build the $16 million answer, nobody can throw rocks at us and say, well, did you look at this? Did you look at this? What about these? What about those?
And they will do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
They made that
did you
clear.
take all?
Did you test wells? Did you see if you had wells?
Exactly. And they're not gonna look at me and the staff here, others, and you, and say, why didn't you?
Yeah, we could spend the 83 for 3 tries and all come up dry.
Right.
And then what?
Well, then that eliminates
That
piece
16
of
then
the
becomes a
equation.
more solid.
Then you've done your due diligence.
Yeah.
So I mean, but let me carry that question a little further. Are there additional sites that will be tested? So not only are you testing 3 sites, but if you wind up with nothing, are you going to continue to explore for additional sites?
Daniel says we're going for 5 sites.
Well, no, he said there's
We have
5 available.
identified 5
sites.
likely sites on the mountain. Now, we took the 3 most likely to address first with the expectation that we will find a reasonable amount of water for use and then forecast out for what could possibly be the next step. It's really based more on, do we actually find a water source that is viable?
Now, I would say as far as the talks that Robert and Daniel and I have had, if we do these 3 wells and we get 3 dry wells, then no, we're not going to recommend doing the other 2 well sites. If we get 1 strong or 2 strong wells, then we might recommend doing the other 2. So that's kind of where we're, at this point.
And again, following the prudent and the due diligence model here, this is all based on a hydrogeographical study that said, we said, where can we find water? with ground, using groundwater wells, and, competent, professional geological people said, here they are.
Yeah.
And there's a number of those, I think there's 10 or 12 or something. So we started with the ones that have the greatest potential for higher yield, and we'll work down the list. If that list starts at something unacceptable in the first three, then I think we can make a decision to say this is not something to pursue. I mean, conversely, if we just say, well, look at the study and decide what to do or not to do, the study wasn't real strong in terms of are you going to find viable wells. We drilled one already that was producing 200 gallons a minute. So
What are you looking for? Do you look at per minute, per hour? What's the gauge?
the threshold is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of, what, maybe 80 gallons a minute?
What we're doing right now is 75 gallons per minute, which in an actual use situation will translate for the town into 54,000 gallons per day of usable water.
80 gallons per minute?
75. That's going to be our qualifying threshold at this point.
Okay, so what if you find a well that is producing 40 gallons per minute? Are you going to move forward with it, or?
Well, at that point, we probably would not recommend developing that into a producing well. I mean, don't spend another nickel if it's only 40 gallons an hour.
His question, I think, is would you go on to a second well?
No, you were correct.
Yeah.
He was right.
Yeah, so we're going to do 3, and we're going to see what we get.
And I believe if you do have a well that is producing and you put it in, you're running 12 hours a day, I think is the max.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that's why I was. That's why I was saying that the 75 gallons per minute is actually translate into 54,000 gallons per day of usable water.
In a 12-hour day.
Right.
Yeah.
And these wells are anticipating to be permitted so that they can go right into the water system and not like the first well that will go into the creek, into the lake, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly right.
And then, so you're looking at 83,000 for exploration, and then if that is a viable well, what's the turnkey cost?
Yeah, and it depends on your site. We have all that stuff put together already in cost estimates, because, one well might be a little further from a point of connection than another. It includes power, how to get electricity to it.
Purchasing the land.
I mean, a rough average.
Well, I think you said roughly.
I think all total there were 3 million.
It was nearly $3 million for all, but the individual sites, that one site is over $1 million. We have 2 sites that are around 300,000. So there's not an average per se.
And those are all estimates.
Yeah, and those are estimates. It depends on how far it is from power, how much water line we have to reach our current system with. So there's not an average. It's a site-by-site basis.
And these sites are not as easily accessible as the first well that we built, is that correct?
No.
Yeah.
That's true. Those items are taken into consideration in the cost estimates.
Right.
What's it going to cost to get an easement to go do a test well? You don't want to buy a piece of property,
Just to
If you
test.
don't
put a
know
well,
that you're
put
gonna
a
get
test
water.
well and not get anything. So we're going to lease to begin with. If it turns out to be viable, then it would be the purchase cost, getting power there, getting, pipes over here, tanks
Big.
and treatment facilities, those sorts of things to make them able to connect.
There's a lot of numbers in here, and maybe we've already, this has been discussed and I missed it. But let's say that we move forward with the 3 wells are viable and it's going to be a $3 million investment. Where does that $3 million come from? Is that part of the water rate increase each year?
That is not included in this.
No.
What we could do though.
How's that funded?
The $3 we're saving for the intake, I would say if those wells are viable, that $3 capital fee will be diverted to the well construction.
And you'll see that $15 million number go down.
Yeah.
We'd be spending more in our backyard as opposed to another and addressing the problem that way.
Yeah, the 15 may go out further years.
Or need a smaller, need smaller piping, reduce the thing.
Any number of possibilities.
Ideally, we find self-sufficiency through these wells, and it becomes a viable program.
It should also be mentioned that the exploratory cost is a portion of that 300 or that $3 million. So, you
So
know.
the $250,000 that we're putting into the 3 wells
Yes.
is part of the 3
Yes,
wells?
so it's actually, it's 267, something like that. So that number declines as a part of the exploratory effort.
And how's that being funded?
Right, it would need to be funded through rates, obviously, but it's not considered a model at this point, because we have no idea if those are gonna be viable or not.
The investigation is part of the
Yes,
rates.
the investigation is part of the rates, but the construction of those wells was not production
At this time.
at this time.
Yeah.
So the 83.3 that you've got there and the 83.4, that's part of the rate increase
Yes.
for
What's-
2020?
Yes, what's here is included in the rate.
So
in the model.
we've already anticipated paying for that
Yes.
out of our rate increase,
Yes.
and then we would just go forward depending if they're viable.
And actually 2020, but remember now, we're in the middle of a 5-year rate increase. This is year number 3.
Right.
So it's assuming we add the next 2 years, as I'll get into my presentation on too.
So
This
that-
is not the final ordinance utility rate.
So again, if that $3 million comes up, would that be part of like a USDA loan or like a low interest loan? How is that?
It could be, once we decide what we're going to do, then part of my analysis would be, what are the available funding sources? What would those be? What would your debt service obligation be?
Right.
All those sorts of things would go into that year's iteration of the model.
So then you would evaluate what options are available?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
And you could do USDA as a package, all 3, or you can conventional finance one at a time.
Right. There's a lot of possibilities, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. You know, it might be selling bonds or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we, McGill, we have a number of people that work in the consulting services for financing and bond ratings and all that sort of thing. So if and when we get to that point, we have some folks that can really help with, you know, is the USDA loan the best option? Or can we self-fund this through some revenue bonds or capital obligation bonds or something that might be a better way to go? Should we need to make that analysis?
But the ratepayers pay it,
Yes.
bottom line. That's by state mandate.
I'm going to just step back for a second. I had a conversation with Ray Russell. He had come visit us up here at Fred's, and we brought up something, and the water intake came in. And so he went away, and he remembered it. He talked to different people about it. And he called me up. We had a conversation, and it was a frustrating conversation on my part because what he was hearing from, I'm guessing he talked to the Watauga commissioners about, well, you know, you've got leakage in your pipes. And I'm like, no, that's been taken care of. We don't, that's fine. And then the next thing was, well, you know, you haven't had any other resources for your water. I'm like, well, no, that's not correct either. We have one well that's going to go into the lake, and we're looking into the options of digging 3 other wells to make sure. So the Watauga commissioners are looking for any excuse that they can get to not allow Beach Mountain to go to that water intake. Any excuse. And that made it more apparent to me than, I mean, I've had conversations with Robert, and we had a meeting with the county manager last year, and I've heard it all, but this coming from a representative who just got done talking to the commissioners, or one commissioner, and they're coming up with this. And the general assessment from anybody outside of Beach Mountain is that we're just a resort area, and all we want to do is get water so we can build more houses. We must do our due diligence, and it's going to cost money, there's no doubt about it, but we have to have every box checked so that when we do go to those commissioners and they start bringing up this stuff, we can say, no, we're at 31%, we're not at 85%, and no, we've dug wells, and this is what we have accomplished. Because you can't give them a reason to say, no, you can't do this, although we wouldn't. But, so, you know, it's very important that it costs us money. It's unfortunate that it costs us money, but it's going to help us in the long run, one way or the other. Whether we need to go to the intake or we don't, it's going to help us one way or the other.
Absolutely.
But can you not provide data to, I mean, if it would get into a push and shove between Watauga County or the commissioners or the powers that be, provide an analysis that shows them that all resources have been exhausted and this is and you know, that it's compelling information that, you know, can't be disputed.
Right. Well, but first we have to exhaust.
That's why
First we have to exhaust those options, which is what we're discussing here.
Right.
Yeah.
Which seems to be your objection.
Well, there's also, when all these studies were going on, the state is actually behind us, but they never approved one of these intakes without county approval. So theoretically, the statutes allow us to go beyond the state, beyond the county and compel them to do it, but the state really rather have everybody playing on the same sheet. And, well, you want to address that and not do that?
You're gonna do.
So anyway, just keep that in mind.
Let me add this to it. There is no rule that they have to approve this. You already have the data. The data's been given to this council and the past council before for the state. That data's there. What Watauga County has to do is what the state wants them to do, is to prove that they will enforce the water restrictions for the land use. Watauga County is taking a position they don't agree with us. The state will not mandate them to do it. They will not take them to court. I mean, and we've talked to 10, 15 people. You know, the state's telling us we're mandated to find a water source. Whether it's Elk River, 15 wells, Watauga, wherever. When Dale started this conversation a few minutes ago, there was some talk about what are we doing, why are we doing it, why are we doing it, and why are we dragging it out. We do not have all the data from Army Corps and the state to tell us what our water source is. As you go back and look, when this thing was permitted back in the 80s, it did not have enough water in it to give us what we're permitted for now. So technically, in the long run, if somebody wanted to enforce the rules, which were on the books then, we don't have the water source. Period.
That would take the effect as a moratorium. You can't connect anymore because you don't have water.
Yeah.
The state has not done that.
Nor has the federal government. So what we're trying to do is work outside in the federal side and with state agencies to get a plan. Probably, as Renee said, if we go through and check all the boxes and we go to public comment on the release, minimum release, and that, we'll probably come out pretty well on that side. Most of the state people agree with us. Most of the federal people I've talked to agree with us. TVA is not concerned. They just want to know what we're doing. And they're willing to help us. The one linchpin this whole thing is Watauga County. And there is, other than a political thing, there is no recourse.
You have no leverage.
So the best thing, as we have recommended before, keep working at it, do what we have to do. Unfortunately, we're going to spend some more money we don't want to spend, or we could spend somewhere else that'd be more beneficial. But long term of this community, you need to spend it. Check all these boxes, make this stuff as airtight as you can, and then let it work itself out.
You mentioned the TVA, that was the other thing that Ray brought up. I love having the answers to stuff when I get questions on things. And one of the other thing is, well, I'm told that you probably should go to the TVA first. Done that. Got the okay. Oh, you did. So the commissioners are coming back with all this stuff that we've already done, and eventually they're not going to have anything else to come back with. So we can only hope that once we do all this, and we do have to go to them, they're just going to have to suck it up. But we were told, like last year, we shouldn't bring it up last year because it was an election year and they would not vote on it. So, hopefully we'll be able to.
Council didn't change enough to benefit the
Yeah.
town anyway.
One thing on this discussion too, and I know we need to try to finish up this portion of it, we've been talking about the compliance side and regulatory side. There's also the customer side of this. If we can finance $3 million and have the water we need instead of $16 million, I definitely want to recommend to you to do the $3 million instead of 16. And so, that we want to make sure, forget all this regulatory stuff, just the people we serve, we want to make sure we've done our due diligence so that we're not obligating them to one option only, $16 million worth of financing for 40, 50 years. So that to me is probably the most important thing.
And to finish up with the answer on your question is that yes, you will have documentation with every iteration that I bring to you of what we've done, what the cost projections were in each one of those iterations, year after year as we progress. So if you need anything previous, it's all available.
So in let's say hypothetically that the $3 million is spent, it's a viable water source. 7 years from now, where you see a decline with what the wells are producing. And obviously it's going to cost, 7 years from now, it's going to cost more than $16 million. But whatever is spent to get these 3 wells going, will any of that be able to be utilized for the intake project?
Well, what happens is if you're saving that capital fee, which eventually be $5, you can keep on collecting it even after the wells are finished.
No, I'm sorry, that's not my question. So you'll be able to, with the infrastructure that is put in place with the wells, will any of that infrastructure be applied or be utilized with part of the water intake project?
Those wells are out in the system and short connection to wherever they are, connect to the system, use the water. Instead of get a pipe all the way from here, all the way to Beach Mountain, is the intake. So no, there is no redundancy in that infrastructure. And again, our goal in this whole analysis of potential groundwater sites is to do adequate testing, so we'll know that we have a viable long-term, yielding well, as opposed to, a flash in the pan that's going to come back and bite us. That's our job as engineers. That's what we do.
Have you seen a well that's produces high flowing amount of water, and in time it's gone dry, and then turned around and water has come back?
I'm not a well expert. I couldn't tell you. Haven't lived in the mountains long. I got here about 3 years ago, so that's not my forte. But we do have a number of experts that could certainly answer your question.
Okay.
Anything else for me?
Thank you, as always, Dale.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Unbelievable reports.
You gonna continue on with that?
I mean, it's foreign. It's foreign.
Yes, continue.
Okay, all right. We'll go with the budget workshop number 1, and we'll start going through the information. We are still going to have you out of here by 1 o'clock. Review fund balance, tax base and reserves, look at departmental overviews. Let's see, we've already talked about health insurance, so we don't have to go over that now. Review proposed vacation buyback program, and review debt service. Just looking a little bit about fund balance, you just see from 2010, and Steve's got these figures, and we had these last year, added in 2018. Our fund balance has constantly grown in the general fund. A lot of that is because of the redistribution of sales tax, so we are benefiting from that. We're in a strong position. This is last year's audit number, I believe, so we'll see what it is this year. We have to add some expenditures. But based on what we expect, this will either level out or even go up this next year. So we're feeling good about that. Unrestricted cash reserves and utilities. You see we spend a lot of utilities, so that's going down. So that's why the rates are needed to build that back up for the expenses we have. And they'll cover most of those in the capital project plan. This PowerPoint will be on the website either late this afternoon or tomorrow. So Earth should be able to get it. Anybody else wants to see it, will be able to see that. Property valuation, you see we have 18 years of property valuations and the different tax rates over the years. This budget is proposed at the same tax rate. You see the tax base is relatively hovered in the same area for the last few years, so going up very slightly. Not a lot of change in that. These are the departments we'll be talking about: administration, TDA, police department, fire department, planning and inspection, public works, Parks and Rec, utilities, and sanitation, separate fund, but I listed it on there in that format. Okay, these are just, like I said, we'll go over the pages in detail, but I just highlighted some of the main expenses for administration. Re-4 in the offices, $16,000. Security cameras, $15,000 for the entire town hall, TDA, police department complex to monitor all the common areas and entrances and exits. Plan and design work for a new public safety, not public works building, public safety, police fire building, at least the design phase for that. Tourism development, these salary and other expenses have been showing in administration, and now they have been pulled out to be more transparent. Also, the TDA retreat in March, the TDA board recommended bumping up advertising and marketing to $10,000 from $1,250.
Can you explain to me what the TDA, explain to me what our part financially is with the TDA? You know, I get confused about
Well,
it.
basically, they're housed in our building. It's a town building. They share some expenses with Chamber of Commerce. We reimburse, we get reimbursed for half of the TDA director's salary. It's all.
How much is that? Do you know off the top of your head?
I'd have to,
Approximately.
approximately, I think salaries and benefits, well.
So she gets benefits from the town?
She gets
also?
benefits from the town, but that also, I won't say 66,000, but that includes the part-time position too, the 66.
It's about 44,000.
44.
Half of both positions.
So the 44,000 is the half part, or it's the whole part?
No, that's half.
Okay, so we're basically paying 44,000 for that position.
That's
Approximately, I'm not looking for confirmed numbers. Okay.
Which includes the part-time person.
Make sure
Right.
we read it.
I think, so, I was told that the town ended up doing, added that salary because they wanted to get a more qualified person, but that was to include economic development.
I think that's correct,
Is that
yes.
true? I don't know, maybe Carl, you were on TDA at the time.
Yeah, and we worked with that council to try and find a way for the TDA fund, which is a tax collected from guests to the mountain of 6% on lodging, to have them go further in fulfillment of the state's charter, which is advertising, promoting Beach Mountain for tourism related, and then a third of that in capital funds, again, related to tourism and recreation. There was a thought, it was, you know, it was bold on both sides that you know, we could grow, that we would need an economic development, and it also allowed that council to better fund that position. I don't believe that has ever resulted in anything to justify that.
The salary.
On the economic development side, yeah. You know, I would envision more a return to the focus of why we collect those taxes, which is simply the promotion of Beach Mountain, you know, and then the capital side. It'd be a more realistic, more real world interpretation of what the statute allows us to do, and then our implementation of it.
Okay, so if we're not really getting the economic development part,
I believe that it's a wonderful thought, you know, and I wish we're growing and we could attract businesses, but you know, I don't believe that is money well spent. And I don't believe that we've ever really funded it to go out and see, because I think the understanding is that, you know, tourism is our industry,
right,
you know, and retirement home and the enjoyment of the mountain and all of that. So, you know, a return to the focus of that would be what I would think if we're looking at trying to fix those costs and return a unified direction of what's happening, you know, in
so should we, and this is an open question for the council, do we need to look at what we're contributing to that, or do we just keep it as it is? Do we look to, I don't know, is it our responsibility to look at the position in itself? You know, these are just open questions for discussion to think about, so we might have to discuss it at another time.
Well, I think it's incumbent upon us as we look at what are we getting for the taxpayers' money that we're spending. You know, there is no obligation as a town for us to do this. You know, other TDA boards with larger can be self-funding, but that is not our way. The rising tide, you know, floats all boats. But I think we need to look at where our dollars are going, what we're getting for them, and you know, can we do better? You know.
Well, then, go ahead.
Do better in terms of what?
Return
on our investment?
Yeah, I mean, are we spending, you know, are these dollars that we're spending being spent properly?
Are we getting the most bang for our buck?
Yeah.
And I guess we're talking about whether you're going after economic development or you're just manning a visitor center and marketing.
Right.
So it's about economic development.
Yeah, I mean, I know the TDA has their budget, they get it from the occupancy tax, and that's completely their responsibility, and of course, we're not going to go over any statute to say, you know, that's not the case, but we are contributing as a town to a position. I think what the ultimate thing was is we wanted to grow our town, not just in tourism, but to try to bring some sort of business, whether it's entrepreneurial businesses, people who can have a business that is solely
Home-based.
online and, you know, that type of stuff, and that just never happened. And, you know, it's $44,000. I don't know if it's not a huge amount of money in the scheme of things, but can we use that in a more efficient manner? Because you've got the chamber in the TDA all in the visitor center. And we had a meeting with the chamber about that, and it's very confusing to me, and they're very much entwined. And I just think that should the town be more focusing on the visitor center and manning it so that people have their questions answered about what stuff is, you know, in the town, than putting money towards something that we're not getting at all. And again, this is not to be answered now, but I think the topic needs to come up and just see, you know, if we are spending our money wisely on that, and if we can, you know, switch things up a little bit and have maybe a town person sitting in the visitor center, not related to the chamber or the TDA, to be able to answer questions and spend the money that way, instead of you're paying for part of a chamber person and part of a TDA person. It's very confusing. And I would rather see something, in my opinion, clear cut. What's the town paying for? What are we getting for it? As opposed to sticking money over here in the TDA for something we're not getting, and half the money for the chamber that I don't know what we're getting out of that. So I just would raise it with the council. If it turns out everybody is okay with it, then it's okay. But I just thought I would put it up for discussion and see where we can go with that, you know, and while we're going through a budget process. So no decisions, of course, or even discussion has to be made. But I asked the council to think about it and think about what you're looking for as far as that visitor center itself and what we need to do with it.
Is that a volunteer position in the visitor center?
There's some volunteer positions, because if they don't have anybody to cover a time frame, they'll ask somebody to come, like Debbie Kennedy has volunteered to come over that. But most of all the people that are really there, they're paid positions.
So the visitor center is the chamber and the TDA.
Yeah, which is where I think a lot of the problem comes from, this muddling. You know, we're still a young town and learning. But, you know, to me, and I served on the chamber board years ago and let them know I don't believe Beach Mountain can support a traditional chamber. But through the years, we now have a very muddled situation over there that gives me pause. You know, and I think part of what we need to look at is redefining that this is a town facility. You know, my always concern is understanding, having served on other chambers, you're there to promote your members. Our visitor center is there to promote every business, every entity on the mountain. So if you've got someone wearing two hats and the phone rings, how are they answering that question? Someone walks in, how are they answering that question? It's 2 o'clock and I'm working on something. Are they working for us? Are they working for the chamber? Where's the accountability? Where's the oversight? Where's the unified direction coming out of that building and what should be the town's relationship to a private business organization are my concerns.
Which is the chamber.
Which is the chamber, you know, within that building at the same time, you know. Are all goals unified? Are, you know, again, where we're putting our money, are they 100% supporting our vision or what we're looking for? You know, which again, I think we've kind of let that go. We've been blinded by years of success in raising occupancy tax rates, which are a function of an improving economy as much as a return to people coming. But that seems to have hidden everything. Hey, look at the numbers, they keep going up. Again, I haven't seen a whole lot of new ideas coming out of that building. New initiatives.
Chamber or TDA?
Both. I mean, both. I have concerns about the operation of that facility as a whole, and that includes what's happening with the TDA, which we appoint, and then the muddling of the lines with another entity and other employees, and split salaries, lack of oversight, lack of direction, honestly, lack of reporting back to us, you know?
So the function of the chamber is to
Represent their members.
represent.
Support, my understanding it is to support their member businesses.
How many chamber members?
Roughly 42 businesses are members of the chamber. That was the last number I heard.
And then obviously the role of the TDA is to
Promote, by the charter, by the state charter, promote travel and tourism. And then there are some requirements as to how those funds that we collect, you know, the state gives us the ability to levy an additional tax upon visitors. So every rental home, you know, that is properly paying is paying an additional 6%.
Who sets that 6%? Who sets that rate?
This, the original qualified, the board that went to the state asked for, you know, first you have to get approval from the legislature, and then you ask for the rate, and it was set at that point.
And what do you have to go through to increase that to 6.5%?
That'd be a General Assembly deal, and we looked at it when I was in Topsail, and that's a no deal.
Yeah.
The hospitality industry is gonna strike that down. It's been brought up several, sorry to interrupt, I've had a little bit of experience with that, and so, they didn't want to increase that. Some towns want to go up to 7%, 6.5%. We can always ask the legislature, but you have to, you're gonna have strong resistance from the hospitality people.
So that rate has been set by the state for 6%.
I would say it was approved by the state.
Yeah.
And that was, just like there's no, you know, quote unquote, there's no set real estate commission, you know, because we can't collude as agents, but amazing how every agent is 6%. It was similar in the tax rate. This is what they'd approved in other towns is kind of the high end. I believe it was what was asked for and what was approved. At that time, it was in excess of the state, you know, of the state sales and use tax.
Does the chamber or TDA pay rent?
No. They did it one time, but that was stopped several years ago.
So neither pay rent?
That's, and I think that's where, you know,
So do you expect them to pay rent?
I think the discussion was like previous councils that instead of them paying utilities, they'd rather put that money in marketing, and the town didn't mind taking that expense up. That's always philosophical between whatever council we have, but I think that was the guiding behind it.
So they're getting something out, rather than paying rent, those dollars are being utilized towards advertising.
Toward their mission, yes, that's correct.
and the discussion, you know, was kind of started a little bit with some of the chamber people. We had a meeting with Bernie and Mandy who are on the chamber and whatnot, about pulling the chamber out of there altogether and let them stand on their own because of the intertwining of the two organizations is just, it's confusing. And I don't know where the money's going and who's benefiting from it. And so we had that discussion. Of course, the chamber's against that. I've heard from numerous people about, you know, it's our responsibility to support the chamber. So that discussion, has gone back and forth. My thing is if you could build a wall down the visitor center and let the chamber be on one side and let the TDA be on another side and don't mix up, that might be something, but you can't do that.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. Why can't you divvy up the square footage? And this is, easier said than done,
And the
but,
thing is when
there's-
somebody comes in, where are they gonna go? And that's the thing, that's why, thinking about, instead of putting money over to this position in the TDA, which is being spread all around, the work that the TDA person is doing, she's doing it for the chamber too, and it's very convoluted, and it's almost like, why don't we just take that money and maybe make a visitor center coordinator person, or whatever you want to call it, and that's a person who works for the town and who is in the visitor center, and if we have to supplement with seasonal workers to help man the place, we can do that, and so that when people are coming in, they're getting told about everything on Beach Mountain and all the events on Beach Mountain, and nobody's being excluded, and everybody's being included, and there's no commingling of a state mandated organization such as the TDA and a private organization such as the chamber. The chamber could stay in there, but you do your chamber work. You don't talk to people. Don't talk to people. Keep your mouth shut. But I know that's not like the ultimate solution, but I'd like to get the conversation started, because I just think that the more people are coming to Beach Mountain, it hurts my head thinking.
So when a stranger goes into the visitor center, does the TDA cater to that individual? Does the chamber employee cater to that individual and ask questions, or is there a position for a town employee, or is there a town employee that's employed there?
There is not.
That questions and answers. How's that? Who's doing that?
They have one person there that gets paid by the chamber and the TDA.
And then they have, and then TDA, yeah, exactly.
I rest
TDA
my
pays one
case.
person.
And that individual answers questions?
Yeah.
Questions, yeah.
So.
And if nobody's there, somebody to TDA will answer the questions. In other words, if Kate's there and the other person is not there, then Kate will answer the questions.
Anyway, I don't want to take a lot of time, because Tim really thinks we're going to get out of here in 25 minutes, but.
So more discussions during the budget process?
I would like the council to think about it. I'd like to, if they want to talk to me about what their ideas are, or go to you, what that is, and maybe we can discuss it again.
It sounds like we're talking about looking at a different
Well,
model.
I think, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think what I need to understand is, what are our expenses related to that building? Whether it's salary, overhead, utilities, what are we spending?
We're spending all utilities. We pay all.
Yeah, but just kind of an overview, just a total cost.
And who's doing what and what their roles are?
Well, that I think is part of the problem, is we don't know because of what happened. For right now, if we're going to attempt to fix it, I need to know what it's costing us, and then we can try to decide, is there a better way to do it?
So we take the TDA budget, compare it to ours, and show this is what, we're showing what we're paying of the TDA, which that's in your packet now. All right, we'll look into more of that. Moving right along, police department, looking to share new vehicles, special projects. The actual share of the vehicle, 17.5, the police with the extra equipment, that's why that number is larger, as you see when I get to special projects. Portable information sign, that's mentioned, like last year we had our water opportunity there in crisis. We've ordered some informational signs, our e-informational sign. This will allow us to have one of our own. These last three items are listed on the expenses, but they're actually fall under the $5,000 capital limit. Automatic defibrillators, computer workstations, and additional software. So that's some of the highlights of the police department expenditures this year.
The AEDs are additional or replacements. I think they're replacements, aren't they? That's what I thought the others are. Oh.
All right, I know everybody is questioning the take-home car program, and the Chief's done a good job about giving me some figures here. So I'll try to do it justice and go over it. These are different vehicles, miles to each person's residence, round trip per day, number of days worked, and this is the total miles to residents. And down here you see the total patrol miles is like 78,480. The annual cost for fuel, we're looking at, right at $1,900, a little bit under $2,000. So for the benefit, and if you want to ask cheap questions, I think that's done really well. And we didn't have to do any salary increases or salary adjustments. That's the average cost per gallon of fuel right now. The average patrol mile per day on Beach Mountain is 60 miles. So that's the fuel cost. Any questions about it?
Go ahead, Mike.
So what are we comparing this to? Do we have
We
some
just,
historical data to compare this to?
let's go move on and I'll show you.
So that number was the annual cost.
$1,900.
$1,900. That's for the
Before you
district.
move on, quick question.
Yeah.
Why has the holidays and vacation days been reduced?
No, they haven't been reduced, but the calculation of days worked has been, that means you've been taken account of because they don't drive it on the holidays.
Oh, okay, thank
Yeah.
you, I got it.
So the annual cost, that $1,900, what is that?
That's actually just fuel cost based on these miles back and forth to home.
That's fuel cost only?
Fuel cost only.
And then you also have maintenance costs?
Yeah, we're moving towards that. You're still in my thunder.
Just one question. The fuel costs on the last three are almost triple to the others. Any particular reason?
Miles from home, 17, 15, 16.
Round trip per day.
Round trip. See, the first 5, 1.5, 13, 1.8, and the last three, 17, 15, 16 and a
Yeah,
half.
but even at the 13, if you take the 13, the fuel cost is $104.
I think vehicle 804 he's referred to.
And then you go down to,
Well, look at the number of days
Go
is
down.
significantly lower, and that's why your total is lower.
Yeah. 38 versus
well,
160.
if you look at 803, no, 804, oh yeah, okay, it's 38 days.
Yeah, that's what drives that.
Who's at 802?
Pardon?
Who's, is Matt Bonestell? Is he on
He's in
there?
town.
Yeah, he's the very bottom car.
8 or 9.
Oh, lives in town, okay. Thank you.
All right, move on to other information about this. Take-home fuel uses annually. It's 11% of the overall expenditure on fuel. So that's the percentage as far as the total expenditure on fuel. Asked him about this. Oil change, PD previously purchased oil, reducing overall cost. One set of tires, one set of brakes and rotors. Vehicle oil changes because of take-home vehicles now. We used to hot seat vehicles, so they were active 24/7. We no longer do that. So that's why that number's been reduced from 16 to 1. Tire replacement, 3 sets per vehicle annually to 1 set annually, but you have a few more vehicles. So that's a little bit about the maintenance cost.
So it's 180 now, but it used to be 529,
Let's see.
right there?
Yes, 1 set of brakes. The brakes, we went through more brakes on cars now. We have more cars, so we go through less brakes annually.
The cost is between $180.55 to $529 per brake.
Per brake job.
Per brake job.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
All right. Just to review the take-home requirements, the chief decides who gets to take home a car. They must reside within 20 miles or 30 minutes away, and they must have an assignment, subject to frequent callback, investigate crimes or other situations. All of our officers currently have take-home vehicles. We did have one vehicle that was damaged, and while that vehicle was damaged before it got in service, the officer was driving his own vehicle. All right, now move on. Like I said, we'll have 3 more meetings on the budget, so if you think of something afterwards that you want to bring up to me, you can.
Well, real quick, Chief, would you consider it a success as far as retention and recruitment? Which is why I was in support of the program. We had the open positions, we were having.
After the July 1st initiation of the take-home car, I had 7 brand new applicants. I had 5 phone inquiries, and I had 2 hires. And I've not lost anybody in a year and a half, or in a year. And that is the best record we've had in 4 years.
Thank you.
I remember when we voted on it last year, the reason, part of the reason
Well, we
was
had
the fact
empty positions.
the people that said yes and then no.
Or withdrawing, and again, that was why I supported it, to help on that front, so I'm glad to see at least it's successful there. And, moving on.
All right. Oh, the fire department, they're gonna have a major paving at Station 1, the new apron out there is gonna be repaved, planning inspections, a new vehicle, streetscape. I'm showing 101,000, we're not sure exactly how much is gonna happen from now to the end of the fiscal year, so that number may change somewhat or need to be adjusted.
Is that really 101,000, not 10,100?
It's 100, yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna be 101,
All right.
yeah.
There's,
And that's kind of a guesstimate there because the whole project's 309,000, but what I'm saying is, we don't really know what's gonna happen this current fiscal year. We've got a pre-construction meeting today at 3:30.
are you talking about the rest of the streetscape?
No, just our portion now.
So the
See, we have to show it as a budget
the
expenditure.
The 452
Feet.
feet.
This would be part of that.
But
What's included in that then? If we got the money from the state,
We still have to show it in the budget as an expenditure, even if it's grant funds. So what I'm saying
and
is,
then the money comes back.
well, we're gonna spend $309,000. So we'll spend part of it this remaining fiscal year, part of it next fiscal year. And like I said, this is just kind of a guesstimate of what we might spend next fiscal year. We may wind up, I may be able to come back at the end of May, reduce this number down, because if they get started really good and get the whole thing done by, June 15th, but see, you vote on budget June 11th, so
what
this,
is the cost for the 452 feet?
309,000 some odd
And
dollars.
how much is the state giving us? For the DOT or whatever?
The grant was for $250,000.
But you got an additional 60,000,
For the
so
balance.
you add 60 to 199,
This is
which
not-
is
This is
250.
not general fund, this is not general fund monies. we're talking
Yeah.
about.
This is
There was-
part of the
it's
money
between the
that we
grant
got from
and
them.
the capital from the TDA.
The total grant is 259 and the TDA is 50, 309.
Yeah. But we have to, it has to be accounted for, is what we're looking at here.
Yeah. Public Works,
But
we
go
still.
back.
Okay.
What was the special projects again you have cost?
Half a vehicle, I mentioned when I was on the police department one, theirs is 22.4, they're sharing a vehicle now, was it vehicle 21? 31, we have a vehicle 31 now that's kind of shared between police and administration, but this is gonna be special projects and police. The police is putting all their equipment in it, so their number's 22.4 instead of 17.5.
It'll be unmarked? Okay.
Is it gonna be a pickup truck? Yeah, it'll be a pickup truck similar to what
Oh,
Bob has.
okay, thank you.
All right. Well, we still have in the leaf vacuum truck in Public Works. We have a pickup truck for Suzie and another 3/4 ton pickup truck.
Can we talk about Public Works for a second?
Yep.
I've had a couple people come to me, and there haven't been a lot, because, whatever, but about our culverts and cleaning the culverts, and some of them have filled up with chat and all that kind of stuff, and now, you guys are out there working on the roads where the water runoff has come. Is there any money in the budget for, and I promised somebody I would bring this up, is there any money in the budget to try to take a look at the culverts and clean them out and get the chat cleared out that's from over the years? Or is there like a plan to do it, after fall and maybe after the winter or something like
Well,
that?
I say it's mainly labor money, but Robert, you want to come up?
Do you know which culverts they were asking you about?
It's
And
up-
I'm not saying specific.
I know, it's up on North Pinnacle, and then there was some work down on the side roads by Pine
Yeah,
Ridge. and that.
because what I'm looking at is, we get a ton of calls from people wanting us to do driveway culverts. And, we don't do those, because those are personal.
Yeah, that's.
That's where we end up getting in a bunch of trouble.
They're
We
paid.
have, how much did we put in there? I forgot.
I'd have to look at the line item.
$10,000, $12,000?
Just for culvert
Just for
replacement.
culvert.
That's the new culverts there, about 10,000.
Yeah. To start replacing, we've got 31 we've already shown, we've got on the list. Yeah, it'd be a while.
So I guess, and again, I promised that I wouldn't talk about this. I keep my promises. But
I put them on blitz, I don't know if I've even done it.
And that, well, that's fine, but so you've got like a maintenance list of, even the gravel culverts,
Yeah.
you blow them out, or you get the, you know,
You try.
stuff out of
Yeah,
them.
you don't really want to stick the factory in them, the back truck, because it
Right.
comes out. Riley had one that killed him one time. It rolled out of it,
Okay,
because it will actually come backwards. Yeah, if we can find out a way to replace it, that's what we've been doing.
okay.
You know, we just did one down here on Christie Way the other day. I've got 5 more, I'm trying to get the weather at home in the next few weeks.
Okay,
You want, let's go ahead and explain, the leaf vacuum truck was part of that solution, though. to try
Yeah, if we can vacuum some of the leaves up, that'd help too.
And where are you gonna
Especially-
put them?
That's a good question, I don't know.
We can vacuum them up, where do we put them when we get them?
I don't know.
Probably one of the town-owned lots, and, you know, if this is approved in the budget, it will not be an automatic expenditure. I don't know if it will be in place by the fall, depending on, you know.
Just depends on if we find somewhere to put stuff and how long it take to order.
I was telling Robert the other day that I met with a gentleman a couple of weeks ago that is willing to, all the ground material, is willing to pay for that material. It's got value to it. And you can also put ground material, it's the ground.
Like
Which
the
is-
branches
It's
and
the
stuff, that's
stuff
all
near
they-
the substation.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Which is,
Oh, okay.
And they can take, he can take that material, he can take the leaves. So I think he was willing to give, it was either $150 or $175 a load. It would have to be taken down to Banner Elk unless there was a larger facility here that it could be stored at, that he could get his tractor trailer in here. He's got a 53-foot trailer. But there's a gentleman down in Banner Elk that he can take the material to. He does charge $75 to dump it there, but this other gentleman would give $150
To pick it up.
per load to pick it up. So, I mean, there's value, not much value, if it's just to be able to have that resource of an outlet to
you
be
will have
able to
as long
get,
as you can keep it clean, that's what
to
we
be
got
able to
wrong.
get rid of it.
Yeah, as long as we can keep it clean, if you can control it, keep it clean, you're gonna have that resource. That's what we got into last time we were selling it to them. That's why they quit buying it, because we couldn't keep it clean. The big pile down there, the upper part of it go pretty well. Once it gets down the bottom where it's already turning black, they won't take it. Because it's actually starting to break down. Yeah, I'm willing to talk to the guy, but I have a pretty good idea of what he's gonna tell me when yeah, if he can buy it, I'll be glad to let him have it. We have another contractor who wants it. He's actually trying to start a compost facility on Old Beach. I would be willing to let him have it, but you know, it's gonna cost us to haul it. So, probably either way, it's gonna cost us to haul it. Yeah, so whoever will take it and get the best deal out of it. It's just trying to get everybody to get on the same page of what's clean you want. It's just like the guy Wagner's talking about, he'll take it, but one of his contractors won't. Yes, I don't.
Well, it's being
You can
used
never
for
get them all
ball
together
field.
and get somebody to give me a real answer. That's what we're looking for.
It's being used for boiler fuel at Domtar. And then there's another facility down in Marion, Baxter's.
Baxter's will not take it.
They won't take that? Is it, why is that?
The guy from Baxter said he would not take it.
Well, just to close out, I know Robert's been working on it. Our best source right now is that Mile High Landscaping might get it. But we'll continue if you got that guy.
I need to talk to Gavin Kingsport again. I've not talked to him again.
Just
I'll
a
give you
quick
his
thing.
phone number.
Thanks for having the guys picking up the trash and the brush on Beach Mountain Parkway today. Appreciate it.
Before the wind blows it all back now.
Stick by. All right, let's move along. Beach Mountain Parks and Rec, park benches, 12,000. Snow gun, 33. Summer sledding, 56. The Shane Outdoor Park, we're showing 150. This, that 200 is set aside, and this is going to be in 3 phases. So we won't know until August if we get the grant funds, but we do have 349,000 now. Part of the town money set aside, donations, etc. Applications due May 1st. Sean's working on it really well, so we're reflecting some of that in our budget this year. Recreational Trail Project, that grant was awarded in 18-19, but not renewed, so we're putting that 18,750 back in. Now, like between now and the next time, if y'all have something that, you think should need to be cut out or added, if we don't get to it today, please send me a note or let me know so I can try to get a revised, budget by next time. General fund expenditure summary, I know you can't really see that well, it's in your package, you can see it online. The total expenditure is $7,425,000 and some odd dollars. Utility fund breakdowns, I'm jumping right to that now. Utility administration, that was talked about earlier in Dale's presentation. Currently, we're transferring $73,000 to Watauga intake. This will increase to $121,800 each year after 2020. That's part of what that capital fee is on the water bill. Water treatment, they're looking at painting a clear well, recoding storage tank 2, replacing the Char Hills water line. That's that big project we've been talking about, one of the two Clean Water Management Trust Fund projects, taking the loan fund. Well investigation, that was covered earlier in this year's budget. In future years, the $2 million, the other loan for the sewer line replacement and wastewater. Taps and systems, generator at Parkway. This is the last lift station that I generated. That's still true.
Last pump station, though.
Last pump station.
Lift
Yeah.
station, sewer.
Yeah, I should have put pump. Yep, I think that's that. 4x4 dump push truck, current vehicle not performing, it's 13 years old. Another thing to help us reduce our water loss, replacing the meter at Pinnacle. Is it an 8-inch or 6-inch? 6-inch. Manhole repair, $20,000.
Is that included on the manhole on Charter Hills? That there's a manhole on Tamarack, on Tamarack, that's got cones around it and the manhole is set down. It's by the trail.
That that's part of the SRF project, that it's open for video work.
Okay.
That will be cleared back in.
Is that what that KRG is doing?
That is, they're cammering the outfall line from Tamarack.
Okay, thank you. So I can answer that question a gazillion times to people. Thank you.
So we'll move on from there. Total utility fund budget for this coming year, $4,622,138.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask, you don't need to flip back to it, but we have hydrant repairs in there, roughly 8,000.
We did.
Microphone.
Does that get all of them back into service? Or is that just a portion of the ones that are out of service?
I think it was 8,000.
I think it was 8, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said 18, I'm sorry.
That's everything that's connected to the system. That's refurb. We have several that are broken. That's repairs on all of those.
And that includes that?
And that also includes the flush hydrants for the dead end flush lines.
So all the ones that we've identified as out of service now, they will be in service after this?
Not all but one. There is one that's in question, that's a Tamarack. That's not a part of this. That's actually a part of the SRF project.
Okay.
But with that said, that's the full intention of that. If it's
So
broken,
you're making by that?
we repair it. Yes.
All right.
Yes, by all means.
All right.
All right. I'll just show you a little bit about one slide on sanitation, then we'll jump out of this. That just shows you the unrestricted cash reserves. Steve compiled this too. So that has gone up, and we'll be using some of that in the future. We use some this year for the truck and different things, fund balance appropriations. Cost of living comparison, CPI, there's 3 different areas I usually use roughly. The average I came up was 2.29. You'll see when I get to it in a little bit, we're proposing a 1% COLA and 2% merit this year as far as salaries. And I kind of usually try to go by the average of these figures. All right, real quickly, I know we bounced around a lot, but okay.
While we're back on that salary piece there, I don't know, are you gonna touch on salaries at all later on?
What part do you want to touch on?
Well, last year we made a change in how we would not fund for, let's see, I'm trying to remember the terminology. It's the bonus and the Christmas bonus and the other factor, the longevity.
I have not made any changes, so this time.
I know you haven't. You've probably kept it the way we
kept
approved
the way
it
it
last
was.
year.
Now, if y'all want to talk about prorating it,
That would be my
we could prorate
idea.
that bonus. And
I think we made a mistake last year when we didn't, and I'd like to have the possibility of discussing to maybe correct that, to prorate it now,
$25 a month
for
each month.
for new employees that are hired
Year.
in a particular year.
That's the bonus, and also longevity, would you prorate the longevity?
Correct.
Longevity, we started at 5 years, and I think we would, I think
1
it
year.
was at 5.
It's 1 to 5. Yeah, you had to-
Yeah, after, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with that, but with the, we call it a bonus, but it's more like a Christmas bonus when it comes out. My
If you-
thing is prorating it by the month for anybody
New
who's
hires.
been here less than a year.
It's a very small amount, so I mean, we could change it.
It's up to council. I mean, I voted not to
I-
change it, so it's up to council what they want to do.
I think we need to leave it alone.
I will say last year, there was a lot of talk, some citizens took up the election, gave it to the employees who didn't get anything, and actually got more than the employees who worked for them.
I'm thinking that we should,
Prorate.
yeah, prorate it. So I'm gonna make a motion that we prorate both for the, for new hires.
I'm against it.
I second the motion.
All right.
Anybody want to talk about it?
I mean, I think y'all to be here for a year before you ought to be here for a year before you get any type of a bonus.
I mean, at a minimum a year,
Yeah.
is my thing. And again, if we're gonna pay all of these additional little things, and I think this is where my 2% number came from, eventually, this has to be capped. I mean, I don't believe in longevity pay. I mean, I believe in merit-based pay increases, you know.
Businesses don't pay, $25 a month or X amount of dollars a month,
Just for not quitting?
Yeah, I mean, so, a minimum of a year, that's fairly standard. Anything less than that, I think we're nickel and diming this thing.
Which are pleasure. Like I said, if you did prorate it, it's a very small amount. It does create a little bit of employee morale issues, somebody getting one and somebody not getting one. And like I said, if you're here 2 months, you get $50. I don't know. Like I said, you can look at different ways, employee incentives.
Don't hire any more new people.
Pardon? Don't hire any more new people.
Any more discussion?
No, I'm not for it. so.
Well, take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against, say nay.
Nay.
The nays won.
All right, moving right along. Okay, and I'll talk fees, and then we'll go back and, because I may have said something earlier wrong about the $39.50. But anyway, just to kind of recap in a little bit more text pattern than the spreadsheet pattern earlier. 2017, we had a $3 increase, $1.50 water, $1.50 sewer. 2018, it was a $3, that's again was $1.50 water, $1.50 sewer, and $1 for the intake, for a total of $4 increase. This year, we're looking at $3 again, and $2 for the intake, total $5 increase just for water and sewer. Then you come down here, and we talk about 2019, and this is what's not going to knock everybody's socks off and make me a very unpopular guy. Sanitation increase, we're looking at a sanitation increase of $5, basically due to 2 new employees, debt service, which is a third of the debt service for the new recycling center public works building, and an increase from the landfill. I even had more bad news. This $1 increase for the additional landfill fees. I met with the county manager yesterday, and that low fee he gave Daniel and Robert earlier, a year from now it's going to go to $59 for everything. So we'll probably wind up having another $1 increase next year for sanitation.
Well, to not be hit with that higher expense, and maybe we're already doing this, monitoring, who's using the dumpsters. I think we've discussed that. I think you have contractors that use the dumpsters, you have folks that that don't live in city limits, that use our dumpsters. I mean, that's costing the taxpayers money.
I think we can do that. I don't see where that's going to eliminate this here. Now, if you wanted to avoid the $5 hit all at one time, I don't like using, or it's not supposed to use reserve for operating expenses, but you could subsidize it for 2 or 3 years if you wanted to minimize this. But until we've changed things, this is what's going to be needed to operate.
So then you're talking about a
$10
increase on.
I'll show you what the bills look like in just a second.
And what are the 2 new employees? What are they going to be doing?
the sanitation. There's one that's approved mid-year, there's another one for sanitation that's in this budget. Strictly recycling center, sanitation, and garbage.
Doesn't come in effect till July.
You know, and you have to look at that sanitation rate. Right now, you're not paying anything. I'm feeling,
We can hear you.
I think that thing.
Well, people know we need to have it on.
Right now, it's out of your tax base. Starting May 1st, it goes $29 a ton. Anything commercial, I said that was $59 a ton. As he just told me, and I didn't know, it all goes $59 a ton. That's $66,000 a year that we have not been back looking for. That popped up 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And on the county side, the county, they have their ordinances too, and they have never been self-sufficient. Because I asked them, why are you hitting this at one time? And they're trying to comply with their ordinance and be self-sufficient. They are, however, they're not gonna start building until July 1. So they did at least hold off at the end of the budget year. The effective July 1 will have that increase this year and another increase next year. Now, one thing, we still haven't addressed changing commercial fees, so it may be that next year, if we could get a commercial fee in place, that that may create enough revenue that we wouldn't have to add $1 for every utility bill. So there is a possibility. So there's a couple of different ways to do it, but basically we still have to have close to what this is looking like.
So there was a budget amendment for the overtime. I think it was around $30,000.
34.
How much? 34. So that's, close to one employee. And I'm sorry, I didn't hear what the two employees, where are they needed?
They're in sanitation and they will be used at recycling center, however they need in sanitation.
One we already hired, that's the one of the two. The second one would be an additional person for the sanitation facility. We have two people, if Charlie is sick or if Porter is sick, or is off, or is on vacation, or needs help, there is no one else.
You have to cover the 7 days.
Don't get microphone.
Restate that.
Good.
This is for the benefit of people home because if they can't hear the conversation of the audience, that's why we need the microphone.
So then when we get to the new recycling and public works building, we're not going to have, I don't know if there's ever a solution for people like from Woodland Meadows using the dump and how you prove that, but as far as contractors are concerned, I mean, they can even come and dump now, even when we close the gate, because all they have to do is go over the gate. Will there be, they won't be able to dump after hours.
That's right.
Correct?
Correct.
So we'll have solved that problem. All right.
Slowly.
There needs to be some checks and balances for the folks that, and I don't know what it is, but, something's better than nothing. Some checks and balances for the folks that are not residents of Beach Mountain that use our convenience center.
There needs to be, and I won't call names, but I happened to be at the convenience center the other day when, our guys were trying to enforce, the ordinance, and we had a long-time businessman up here. He was doing what apparently was contractor work, but he claimed it was his facilities and he should be able to dump at town hall. And so staff can do some, but it's going to cost, we need support from the political side of it too, if we're going to start really cracking down on who's using the dump. It's not all contractors from Tennessee. So just keep in mind that. So you might be telling us that when we come back to you and say, okay, is it okay if we make this person upset, this person upset? Because if we didn't argue with them, they did right, they did what they should have done, but, in actuality, I feel like that person was abusing the use of the center.
So folks that live in the Meadows, what does their driver's license say? Is that?
Say whatever state they live in. They don't all live in North Carolina. They might.
I think he's asking about their address. I think it'll read Banner Elk.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I wasn't. So, that's kind of how you, that would be my first approach, is you have to be a resident of Beach
When
Mountain.
I lived in there, my driver's license said Beach Mountain.
Really?
It did.
Because 28604 also Banner Elk.
Yeah, but when you say you're on Beach Mountain, they put Beach
Yeah.
Mountain on there. My
Mine does
driver's
too.
license didn't say Banner Elk, and
That obviously wouldn't work, Widener. You have 2,000 property owners that have out-of-state driver's license that have paid this, have every right.
I
don't know what we can do.
Rental guests that are, that we are promoting to bring here that are not going to have Beach Mountain driver's license.
I agree that if there's something we can do, we should do it, but
I don't know what
I'm
that
at a loss what that is.
We can look into that. I mean, the sticker program, even Avery County and Watauga County don't use stickers programs. And actually, I asked them, Watauga County yesterday with their increases, are they going to go to that? They're still not going to go to using the sticker program. But anyway, we'll hear what you're saying.
And the stickers wouldn't work with rental properties anyway.
Well, you could have 2 hooks or something with stickers on them. And anyway,
Then they go home.
let's get back to the budget, and I'll hear what you're saying on that. Go back up to 2020, we're looking at another $3, $1.50 water, $1.50 sewer, $2 for intake. That should reach the maximum of $5 in 2020. 2021, $3 for water and sewer, $1.50 each. That will be the end of the major 5-year increase. Now, I don't know if Dale got it in his plan, but I know after that, people will need a breathing break.
Yeah.
And so we have 1 year without an increase, and this is subject to change a little bit. And then small increases like 50-cent water, 50-cent sewer, because we're trying to get to a point, we're playing catch up now, Robert can tell you, and so we never want to play catch up again. So if we can get it down to smaller increases, whether, we may go 2 years without an increase in the 2 years, or I just showed it rotating to kind of give you a feel that water and sewer increases probably never totally go away. It's not like once we hit the year 5 here, that that's going to be the end of it. All right. Okay, this is, yeah, it was 39.50, so it does need to change.
All of the calculations were based on 39.50.
This
was just, that was the last edition that came in yesterday. It was a typo.
Okay, all right, okay.
Everything is based on
That makes me feel much better then,
Yeah.
okay, excellent. That was one of the sheets that Dale showed earlier. But right here, you'll see what the water bill is. Well, the utility bill now, 38 water, 38 sewer, garbage 1361, recycling, the capital, we're talking intake fee. This is what, if everything's approved, this is what the bill would look like. $10, $101.97. I know it's good. People don't like hearing this, but when you look at your phone bill, your cable bill, your cell phone bill, all those utilities are a lot more than all these together here.
It's a sticker shock.
It is sticker shock.
I'm sorry. I'm doing a calculation problem today.
Is there a way that residents can opt out of the garbage?
They can opt out of curbside pickup, but
they
they're
can't
still,
opt out.
they're still gonna be bringing their garbage to the dump.
Yeah, so part of that
That's inclusive of
1361
that
is.
fee. You can't break it out and say, hey, you have to stop picking up at your curbside, we'll knock $1.50 off.
Yeah,
That's not
even
right.
if you don't have a container, you're still being billed now for this because you're still getting your limbs picked up, white goods picked up, service at convenience center. So you're paying for service, because as I mentioned in the conversation, it's just a different delivery of how you get that service.
Can I recommend something? This is going to hit a lot of the condo associations really hard. I mean, it's big. When I'm going from, an $83,000 water, sewer, and trash in Holiday Beach to $108,000. So I guess my thing is that if most people are on a fiscal year from July to June, that if we think this is really going to happen, the sooner we get it out to condo associations, because they're probably going to have to readjust their budgets to a certain extent to be able to pay the bills. So it's just a suggestion. I've got a board meeting in May, and I'm just going to tell them it's going up, and we're just going to have to deal with that. But I mean, I can't imagine how that's going to affect the Pinnacle.
But they'll have 3 months. This goes into effect
Right.
July, right?
But
So
they're
they'll-
probably working on their budgets now, just as we are. Maybe not. Maybe I'm special and, I work on mine. But I'm just saying on the condos that, that have multiple units, and I don't mean 4 units or something, but it could affect them financially. And I'm just thinking if somehow the word could get out sooner, if we go ahead and approve this, the sooner the better, so that they can possibly adjust their budgets as necessary.
Well, the final date for approval is June 11th, but I guess if you wanted to approve the fees at the May 7th meeting, to say this is what the fees are going to be, that would definitely put it in stone.
Right. Because $10 a month isn't terrible for a single
Individuals.
homeowner. I mean, you're talking 120, how many people, you know, you can't go out for lunch for $10. So I don't think it affects the single homeowners, but for the associations that pay for all of that. Now, maybe some of the associations, they are billed individually and it wouldn't make a difference. But if it's part of their homeowners association, then it's gonna make a difference.
Well, I mean, unless there's opposite, I mean, are we not gonna follow the recommendations of our departments? I mean, I think you can safely tell them. I mean,
This is it.
You can ballpark it down pretty much, and that's,
Yeah.
unless there's a hero of the people who's gonna pay for these
That's
additional
what's in my
costs
board
at this
meeting
table.
on May 4th to say, oh, guess what? This is what our water, sewer, and trash is gonna be.
I
It's
think
just
you
a
can tell
thought.
them today.
I think it's just a thought that.
So the consensus is pretty much, this is
I mean,
what's
we
gonna
gotta
happen.
do it.
The
I mean,
consensus is that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, we have to do it, but it's just a thought for, and maybe you guys, the utility guys know which associations are not billed individually
And possibly we look at the sanitation increase to try and spread that over, as he was saying. We can look, but you can say, it's not gonna be more than this amount. You know,
Right.
perhaps it'll be a little less, but
but
you can
budget
expect
for that.
increases, and in your budget process, that's what Dale's spreadsheet shows.
Right.
You should be able to budget those increasing costs moving forward.
Well, Renee, maybe between Daniel, me and Robert, we can get a memo and we'll circulate to council that we can send to these property owner associations, because really what they need to plan for too, I showed you 1 year of increases. So let's back up a little bit.
Right,
So, I mean, you got 2019, and then you got 2 more years. Now, next year, sanitation won't be but $1 increase at the most. So that one big hump for sanitation is going to kind of ease off.
right,
But they need to be planning for all 3 of these years
right.
now, because the homeowners are going to be mad if you go every other year, plan for it now, maybe say, look, this should carry us for 3 years.
Exactly.
So we'll kind of get together a brief memo about, this is what it looks like between now and 2022. This is what you need to plan for, and these are implementation stages. Yeah, but, so.
Okay, just a thought,
All right.
thank you.
I apologize for that. That is not a fun thing to have to go
It's
over.
your fault.
At least there's no new taxes, so that's good. But people sometimes look at that as a tax. Okay, just general fees. This is for just information. It's not really, it affects people who use it. The recreation department is they've talked about it for several months now. They didn't have any rental fees for facility rooms. Now you see they're recommending $60 for 4 hours, $100 for 8 hours, $30 per hour. They are proposed to go up one fee for facility room after hours from 30 to 50. And all these are going to be added, a refundable deposit, optional fee, that's where they set up the tables and help you set up stuff for you so you don't have to set it up. Wedding special events a little bit higher because there's more involved. $125 for 4 hours, $250 for 8 hours, a $350 non-refundable deposit. And we've had some folks kind of argue about that already. Gymnasium rental, we came up with that fee. We thought the club was going to do it. I don't know if anybody else has ever rented a gym, but we have this fee. If somebody wanted to do a holiday market that was not us, they might want to rent it for $300 and have some kind of event in there. So anyway, that's.
Sean, I don't see cleanup fee.
That's what the 350 wedding special, that non-refundable, the clean fee was in that.
In the non-refundable?
Yes.
And we've had, I've had different people talk about the cleanliness down there and everything, and you get people say, oh, well, we can clean up real good and we'll take care of it. No, you need to go ahead and have somebody clean up, because your definition of cleanliness is different than my definition of cleanliness. And anyway, I don't want to get into these lower details, but.
I wouldn't call it a deposit though, because it's a fee.
It's a fee.
So call it a fee, not a deposit.
Yeah. Oh, so you think, well, I guess we could, maybe change
That's
the
true,
word.
it isn't, they're not gonna get it back, so it is a
Yeah.
fee.
Maybe we change it to maintenance fee
Fine.
or something. All right, let me write that down.
When people think deposit, they think they're gonna get it back.
Even if it says non-refundable.
Mm-hmm.
Police department, they need to update some of their fees as well, so Tim's provided that with me. They're going from $30 to $35 for off-duty patrol vehicle, from $100 a day to $125 a day. Golf cart registration, this is what the committee talked about earlier. We're going to $75 for individual and $500 for fleet. The fleet is the club. So they basically unlimited inspections for $500. I don't think that's gonna be a problem. We have like 25 at most. So we're looking at recommending those fee changes. All right, general notes, no increase in property taxes, no increase for inspections permits for general government other than the ones I just mentioned for parks and rec and police. We've already mentioned the cost of living and merit. This merit too, that's 2%, that's a pot for each department. That doesn't mean that everybody's gonna get the 2%. You may have some who get none, some who get 0.5%, some who get 1%, some who get 1.5%, etc. This is kind of something we have to be aware of too. State retirement contribution increased from 7.75 to 8.95 for general employees. This is going to go up every year for the next 3, well, this year included, but 3 years, the town's going to be paying more to the state retirement system.
You say for the next 3 years?
Yes.
What is their ultimate target?
I think it's 12% for roughly around 12. But that's just based on actuarials and number crunching, and this is what they need to pay out the retirement people who are in the system and those going to be retired. Police officers slightly different. They're going from 8.5 to 9.7. I've already mentioned the $5 increase in the sanitation base fee. The water sewer increases have already been mentioned. Okay, this is something that I hadn't talked about until now. Okay, allowing employees to cash in 1 week of vacation as long as they have 40 hours remaining and there are no budget issues. That's basically it in a nutshell. This will be an additional slash employee benefit, also slash reduce town's liability. When somebody leaves the town employee after so many years, if they have so many weeks vacation, we pay them all out at one time. And it's also a way, I have worked in at least one other town that did this, and for employees, if they had 3 weeks vacation, they could cash in 1 week, use that for money on their vacation and go from there. I'll open it up. I don't know, Daniel, you want to make any statements about it? Or I know Matthew's mentioned to me several times when I've been down.
What we just, several people have said, several of the employees have said that would be nice, but I mean, the fact is it allows them to choose. You know, if they want a little bit of walking money for their vacation, they already have the time, they've earned it, you know, that's a benefit, so it's there, but it's up to them for choice, so.
Yeah, and what we're doing on this, you know, during the budget process, I will put it in like the budget message, it will be in the budget ordinance, but if you guys think about it and say you want a different format or you don't want it, then we'll take it out. But,
does our current policy allow for accrual past 3 weeks of vacation?
It
Do we
allows-
have employees carrying 3-4 months of paid vacation because we never go on vacation?
It allows you to 240 hours. And then anything over 240 goes to
Use it or lose.
vacate. No, it goes to state retirement sick time.
I'm opposed to that benefit.
I'm not. We did this in the firms that I worked with, but we also required that you know, and depending on seniority, as that went up, your vacation increased, but you could never carry more than, for me, at less than a 15-year employee, more than 3 years from 1 year to the next. So you really, if you didn't take the vacation, you sold it back. So that we didn't, you know.
Every year in January right now, anybody who has over 240 hours, that rolls over to sick time. But this right here, you probably won't ever have any rolling over sick time with this policy.
Yeah, but if he cashes in 1 week and doesn't go on vacation, then what?
That's not really a problem either, because, I mean, they have that. Now, the manager always will have the right to say yes or no, because if we're having budget issues or there's problems. But as long as they have 40 hours in the bank, they can cash in 40 hours. Well, let's say they, you know, their child needs something and they want, or they have a car payment. It could be used for anything. You know.
So we're talking 6 weeks is what we currently allow them to accrue.
Yes.
Vacation time was set up for people to take time off.
Yeah.
And not cash it in for baby needs new shoes.
But we have codified this as a benefit.
That's correct.
And how the employee chooses to access that benefit is one thing. I'm a firm believer in capping the amount of time you can accrue, because, you know, there are, and, you know, if they want to cash it in at the end, and I think it should be less than 6 weeks, depending on, you know, our most senior employees, are they getting 4 weeks of a vacation a year? I mean, is it vacation time?
You can accumulate over 4 weeks a year, and then if you carry over. Now, you know, I didn't want to like throw negative out there, but I mean, you could come back and say, we want this policy, but we're only going to allow you to carry 200 hours of vacation, everything over 200 goes to the sick time, or everything over, because I would say 5 weeks. The corporate world gives most is 5 weeks. They say, okay, we'll adopt this, and in conjunction, anybody who has over 200 hours in January, everything over 200. See, that cuts liability too, because that cuts out an extra week. So you could couple those together and say, we're okay with this, we'll do this. You could also say that it's mandatory that everybody takes 5 days of vacation a year.
Well, I mean, my experience in the private sector has been more of that. It got to the end of the year, you either took the cash or you lost that vacation. You know, there wasn't this idea that you now owe me 6 months. I'm going to take off and take vacation.
Well, now I do have a little. I disagree a little bit in the municipal world about use it or lose it. I like it going over to sick time, but you have recreation people, you have water leaks. It's hard to give people vacation time. So I'm not so sure. You know, we'll do as council directs, but I'm not so sure it should be used or lose.
So we give them the money at the end of the year, or, you know, as opposed to continuing to build it to sick time and just become untenable numbers when you lose that employee. You know, the benefit is in fact a cash benefit. Now, for wellness health, we need people to be taking their vacation, but you can, I mean, instead of rolling it over and defer it, you know, I mean, you hate to say make them take the money. You know, it's my use it or lose it.
Well,
Tell them like that's a sick time.
Yeah.
Once it's rolled over.
oh, once it goes to sick time, it goes towards your retirement. So if you did reduce it from carrying 240 hours to 200 or 160, that would be a benefit because it rolls over into state retirement, and then it no longer becomes our liability.
Well, sick time is never paid out thing when you terminate.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean,
Which vacation time is, correct?
yes. So you're really, by converting it, you are reducing the liability somewhat.
Or moving it to the state retirement
I mean,
fund.
you're never gonna pay that out unless the person actually uses it.
You don't pay sick leave out.
Right.
You do pay vacation. So is it consensus enough that I come back with some merged policy, like I said, either mandatory 5 days off, cut back 200
I
hours?
don't think you should be telling people what they can do at their vacation. That's just my opinion. In the years that I worked outside of a municipality, you know, you got vacation. I worked 15 years for a company. I got up to 4 weeks. You know, I think I'd be, you know, if I could take the money, I would want to take the money. If I want to take my vacation, I should be able to take my vacation. I don't think you should be mandating to employees that you have to take a vacation time or, you know, that type of thing.
Well,
I understand Barry's point about if somebody who's working a lot, maybe somebody needs the money and he's not taking any vacation at all, can he get burnt out quickly or she get burnt out? Yeah, I can see that. But I would leave it to that person's supervisor also to say, you know, you're getting pretty burnt out here, you're getting irritable and you're kind of upsetting the rest of the employees, so you're going to need to do something. But I don't feel that it's our responsibility to tell an individual that you have to take vacation or, you know, that type of thing. I don't mind the payout if they work here and they get 2, 3, 4 weeks vacation and they want to take some of that in money. I don't see a problem with that. I understand about just make sure I do understand about the liability. If we went from 240 to 200, then we would be paying out sick pay for the 40. Is that what you're saying?
No, you don't pay it out. If you reduce,
I mean, it goes into the retirement.
it goes into, we wouldn't be paying it out. So if you drop from 40 hours, it's from 240 to 200, you're already eliminating anything over 240 liability. So you're cutting liability in that. And then if they cash in a week, then you're cutting additional liability if they were to leave.
Okay.
Is it an option for them now?
No, it is not.
Okay, so what we're discussing is making it an option for those employees that want. We're not saying you have to do that.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And again, my position remains a hard cap on how much you can accrue.
Right, and I agree with the accrual because my husband got his sick pay when he retired, and thank God they paid for everything. So I don't ever want to get into that kind of position for vacation or whatever. But, so I agree that you should put a cap on the accrual. And I just think that you can offer it as an option. If people want to take the money, let them take the money. If they want to take a vacation, let them take a vacation. I think that's an individual's right to decide.
All right, I think I have the general direction, so we can move forward with that. Just to try to find this out here. Future projects, I won't even go through those. I mean, well, I'll go a little bit, I guess. Body camera upgrades. I just listed out things that were still coming down the road. generators in the fire department, heater replacement. I do have to talk to him about the generator for Station 2. 28,000 seems a mighty low price for a generator. When I was going back through it, I didn't notice that on the first 2 or 3 takes, but I need to talk to him. Public Works, this is what Robert mentioned earlier, $10,000 annual on culverts, patching, ABC stone annually, a new asphalt roller in 2021. Lake Coffee Building is going to come up at some time. We're doing design work on that now. Shane Park, we've already mentioned that. Tennis basketball court, AC, that's something the rec committee put out there for a future need. They also replaced a vehicle in a couple of years. Playground by the Bark Park. A sledding hill building in Warming Hut is a proposed thing on Horizon. Splash pad. They're already working with bear-proof trash bins. We talked about park benches, and we didn't mention the UTV trailer that's in out years for recreation. The sewer line replacement, I think I've had this in a couple places, but that's that other loan we were talking about. And then I just fixed it one time, but I didn't catch this one. I fixed one this morning, had put A back in there, $16,000, so it should be retired.
Yeah, 16 million, not 16,000.
Oh, yeah, 16 million.
I wish.
Just a slight mistake.
I wish no brainer, 16,000.
Yeah.
That's probably the power bill.
The power bill, exactly. Just looking quickly over debt service. Woohoo, we paid off the rec center this year, so that payment is gone now. We have some more on the general motor grader and swamp loader, another 3 years on that equipment. Public Works facility, that would be 17 years on total on that. We're estimating right now. So that's the general fund debt. This is all in your packet. It will be online. Enterprise fund, we have the Palm Creek wastewater treatment plant, state revolving loan fund. That matures in 2028, so that will be paid off not too long from now. The lease purchase on the radiator relief water meters matures in 2021, so that good amount will be taken off there. And Dale and Daniel and Robert have been looking at these debt projections as part of their overall fee calculations and rate studies. The water treatment plant, that will be here long after everybody in this room is not here. That debt is not retired until 2056. The backhoe I mentioned earlier, that part retires in 2022. And the Public Works facility, if everything goes good with that, that will retire in 2036. We haven't assumed this debt yet, but once we begin construction and everything's approved, that is the figures on that debt. Sanitation, that shows you their part of the sanitation debt for the Public Works facility. All right, budget dates ahead. May 7th, the first public hearing. May 24th, the second workshop. June 11th, the third and final public hearing. And so I just ask that between now and then, if you have any questions, get back with me and let me know. And if there's a consensus to take something off or add something, we'll get it fixed before the May 7th meeting, or definitely before May 24th. I don't think anything else on that. I do have over here, if you're wondering what these big books are, if you really want to go through last year's total year and year to date, you can check each department by line item and check invoice if you want to do that. So we have that here as well. Also back on May 7th, that is a regular board meeting. So, I told you we don't have time to do it today to go page by page, but usually at the May 7th board meeting, I'm looking, we'll probably spend maybe an hour. So just before we do regular business, and I'll usually just flip through because that's the best way I found to make sure everybody has, I'll do it quick. I'll say, okay, administration. Any questions?
Which means we should be going through this before the board.
You should be going through,
council meeting.
and hopefully by May 7th, we're in that hour. If we don't have too much on the agenda, we may stretch it to an hour and a half and try to get through at least all the general fund departments. I don't think there'll be too many questions on there. So anyway, I'll follow council's direction. You may come back next time and tell me, Tim, we don't have to go department by department. These are my 5 questions. These are my 3 questions. And if I answer all 25 questions, then that might speed it up. Other than the capital, everything's pretty much the same. Insurance cost is in there. One thing that's not in there right now, I'm still waiting on Nordic, our PC. We have data processing line items. He's going to like a uniform monthly billing, And so I don't have those figures, so that's the only thing I know that might change right now with, any figures. But if there's any changes from one budget to another, I'll make sure that I'll make you aware of whatever changes there are. But from this point forward, unless you tell me to, I don't have any more major changes. This is pretty much the budget set as is, unless you change direction.
What about the salt for next winter?
The salt, I believe we have over $70,000 budget for salt. We're trying to get a little bit of, I think we've got 460 tons this year. Last year, so we'll have that's in the budget this year. And that should be a line, I think I put it in this line item, it says salt purchase in public works.
Wait a minute.
I just need to mention that I will not be at the May 7th meeting. Marissa will be recording, but you won't see me. We are planning for that because the calendar date was supposed to be the second week of May, but we changed that, and that's when I had School of Government classes already on the books. So just so you know, that's we adjusted.
Riley will have a new assistant. He'll have Marissa here to punch things. Like I said, I know that's quick and dirty. This is first time. I appreciate staff working with us, trying to always get a functional budget, something that works for the citizens, residents, and visitors. And, like I said, we have 3 more meetings, and if you deem we need to have more, we can set those up. So I appreciate it. If you have any questions, if you're not too tired, or if not, we'll get them next time.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Wendell, Widener, any more discussion? All in favor? Leave.
You made it back in time, Bob. I adjourned slow.
Okay, hold on, let me call my husband. I need to sign something. Thank you so much. Hi, we just finished. Have you eaten lunch?
So you
Want to meet someplace?
working at the country? I thought it was.
No, I don't know. Do you want to go to lunch?